Angels and demons can't cross over onto our plane. So instead we get what I call half-breeds. The influence peddlers. They can only whisper in our ears, but a single word could give you courage or turn your favorite pleasure into your worst nightmare. Those with the demon's touch, like those part angel, living alongside us. They call it the balance. I call it hypocritical bullshit.
Hello and welcome to Comic Book Movie Oblivion, the podcast about feature films based on comic books and comic strips that people have stopped talking about. We are your hosts, Jordan and Kumar, that's me.
And me.
And this week we are talking about Constantine from 2005.
Starring Keanu Reeves and directed by Francis Lawrence.
Yes, and I guess there are going to be some spoilers, because there's some, reveals and stuff about the comics and the movie.
Are you suggesting that people pause the podcast?
They might want to, just a heads up.
Yeah, we may spoil this 20-year-old movie.
Yes, in the comics, I think that Dangerous Habits arc is from the early 90s, about 90 maybe?
Yep.
Okay, so we've also got an interview with Stephen Bissette this week.
He's back. His triumphant return to the podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
He's even older than last time.
He just had a birthday, in fact, his 70th.
Oh, amazing. Congratulations, Stephen.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Constantine, because we need to describe the character a bit before we get into the interview, because in the interview we just kind of
jumped right into it.
We jumped right into it. So, John Constantine was introduced as a supporting character in Swamp Thing.
Yes.
He showed up as a kind of supernatural advisor.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, he was developed as a kind of blue-collar warlock, as Alan Moore described him. I didn't ring the bell.
Well, you can ring the bell once, and then we better
once for the episode. We're not going to ring it again, because the character was created by Alan Moore, Rick Veitch, and Stephen Bissette. Okay, so...
It's Rick Veitch, I believe.
Rick Veitch, yes. What did I say?
Veitch.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay. This is all clarified in the episode. There's online, if you see what is the first appearance of Constantine, some people will say something number 37, some people say 25, where in the background there's this guy that looks like Constantine, and Stephen clarifies all of that.
We can lay it to rest now. Yeah. Our podcast lays this question to rest.
Yes.
When they alter his Wikipedia article, they will cite us.
Yes, absolutely. So he's kind of this working class mystic or wizard. Now, the thing is, he shows up, his likeness is based on Sting. This is the thing that everybody knows about John Constantine. He looks just like Sting, at least for that first run, and then later on other artists kind of just made him this guy with blonde spiky hair.
Yep. But yeah, in Swamp Thing, he looks like Sting.
Yes, and this is a 1984-85 debut. One thing I did not mention in that interview somehow did not come up, that 84 was the year that Sting was playing Fade in Dune, and somehow I did not bring that up at all.
It's probably just as well you didn't.
It was in my notes, and I didn't mention it. But we just talk about the other.
He says that he was a fan of the Police. Yeah.
Yes, and Brimstone and Treacle and Quadrophenia.
Oh yeah.
Those were the influences on the. That's why they wanted a character. But this is all in the interview. Anyway, they wanted a guy that looks like Sting in the comic, and he turned out to be this working class wizard. He wears a suit and tie under a trench coat. Looks pretty grubby most of the time, disheveled. Yes, I guess you would say. Is the word. He's a chain smoker, and he's
English.
He's English, very English.
From Liverpool.
Yes, and he's very sarcastic, cynical.
Yes.
It seems to be he's flippant. It's maybe a mode of deflection.
Yeah.
Because he really is put through the ringer all the time, and he's constantly sacrificing his own friends. His friends are always dying around him because he's got to cast some spell for the greater good, to save the world.
Well, he seldomly casts spells, which is awesome.
Yes.
I kind of think of him as a kind of anti-Doctor Who.
Right.
Or Magic Doctor Who, because he kind of just wanders around.
He recruits other people to cast a spell.
Yes,
he's like, oh, I need this type of spell cast. I know this guy that'll do it.
Or he'll get someone along and he'll just have he always feels really bad about it. But people around him are constantly being sacrificed.
Yeah.
to get rid of the monster of the week.
Yes.
He has a high turnover in companions.
Yes, and sometimes they're like his old friends.
Yep.
Like in the first story arc, there's this guy he grew up with as a child that he ends up sacrificing for this spell. He knows it's going to kill him, but he just has to do it to, save the world.
He seldomly does magic. He mostly just outsmarts.
Yes, he's cunning.
People. Yeah, in a cunning... Yes, that's right. Cunning is the word. He's also... he's quite vulnerable.
Yes.
And he's often horrified by what he sees.
Yes.
And doesn't know how to react or what to do. He's often scrambling about, not knowing what to do. He's a great improviser. And and he's also, as you said, a chain smoker, a drinker. He's often sleeping rough. He doesn't live anywhere nice.
In fact, I don't know how he makes money.
Magic, I assume. That's the only magic he does. Making money. I imagine. I think
you mean he's like producing bills magically?
I think he blags it off people using magic, or he can...
Oh.
It's not common.
No, actually, we do know that he won $50,000 gambling at Papa Midnight.
Oh, he did too, that's right.
So...
Doesn't he pay for something in Spurrier's run with just some, crumpled up money crumpled up paper that he wizards them into thinking is money?
Yeah, right.
Anyway, and he's also pathetic a lot of the time.
Yes.
People are always yelling at him and telling him to get his shit together, and they don't want to see him when he turns up.
Yep.
They don't want him in their house.
And he's got a big, when he first appears, he's got this big backstory. He's got this network of people. We've never met this character before, but he knows all these other wizards and stuff. He's a big kind of mover and shaker of sorts. He connects people. We also learn, just through one or two lines of dialogue, that he was involved in some sort of exorcism of a little girl a year before, and the girl had died,
Newcastle,
and he ended up
bad.
he ended up in the quote-unquote loony bin for 2 weeks. This is later retconned by Jamie Delano, who takes over writing the regular series, when he gets his own series, because he becomes this huge character that runs for 300-plus issues of his own stories.
And it's still going.
But that's retconned that the thing was 10 years before, and he was 2 years in an asylum due to whatever he saw there. So I think that maybe lays out enough of the character that we can roll the tape.
Transition now to... Yeah,
okay.
Roll tape.
Let's roll the tape. Okay, I'm here with Stephen Bissette. Stephen was last on the show to talk about Return of Swamp Thing, 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, that was a while. Yeah.
This year is the 40th anniversary of John Constantine, Hellblazer. First appeared in Swamp Thing number 37, cover dated June 1985, so I guess that would have been a March or April release, is that right?
Actually, he appeared before that.
Okay.
He appeared originally in the first episode of the three-part Demon arc, the Jason Blood Etrigan Demon arc.
Yes.
And he appeared in the crowd scene.
Yeah.
He's among the onlookers looking at a hapless salesman being speared by a stuffed swordfish.
Yes,
and that is the first appearance of Constantine.
Okay,
right
so we have it straight from the horse's mouth, because people have been speculating about this online, whether that was a random...
No. I'll tell you the whole story, Kumar, if you would like to hear it.
Well, okay. First, I want to hear the whole story, but my assumption was that there is a Sting-looking guy in issue 25 in the background. And,
we told Alan we weren't going to stop drawing him. He had to make him into somebody.
Figured that he was a bit like Mr. Peanut in your 1941 adaptation.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You got it. You got it.
Like a Will Elder kind of background. I'm just going to draw a bunch of stuff in here. And
actually, he's closer to, the inspiration for the Mr. Peanut. Man, you are great. For you to hold up 1941, bless you. And you nailed it. The Mr. Peanut in the Rick Veitch, Steve Bissette, Alan Ashman, 1941. That was a concoction that Rick and I came up with. And that was our nod to the little light bulb headed assistant in Carl Barks's Gyro Gear Loose.
Oh,
strip.
Okay.
Okay. Because part of why I still have all the original Gyro Gear Loose comics.
Okay.
I loved that comic more than any Carl Barks anything.
Okay.
Because of the little assistant.
Okay.
So yeah, there is actually, it's a bit of a leap, but I would draw the connection from the little light. I don't think the assistant ever had a name.
Okay.
If he did, I was never aware of it. So from Gyro Gearless's assistant to Mr. Peanut in 1941, the illustrated story, to Gumby.
Okay.
To Constantine.
Wow. Okay.
For those eagle-eyed Swamp Thing readers, John Totleben and I, we had like running jokes between us. I mean, John and I met not my first year at Kubert School, but the second year is when John Totleben started at the Joe Kubert School. So he would have been fall of 1977. That's when I met John, and we bonded almost instantly. We were into all the same crazy pop culture, and John also was the most amazing artist at the Kubert School. He could draw circles around any of us. As an illustrator, he didn't quite have the storytelling chops yet.
Okay.
So we had a running joke. One of my classmates at the Kubert School, please excuse the long introduction here, Kumar, but one of my classmates at the Joe Kubert School first year was a gentleman named Ernie Passanen from New Jersey. And Ernie is still good friends with Rick Veitch and I. We get to see each other every so often. Ernie and I started a classroom joke on our assignments where I would write in graffiti, Passanen eats shit, and Ernie would write Bissette eats shit somewhere in his assignment.
Okay.
When we graduated, Ernie, unbeknownst to me, deeded this over to John Totleben.
Okay.
So John and I started doing it. We couldn't do it in our mainstream comics work, but if you look at, like John did a werewolf story for Bruce Jones's Twisted Tales, and somewhere in the background is graffiti that says Bissette eats shit, and somewhere in the background of one of my underground comic stories, there's graffiti that says Totleben eats shit.
Okay.
Fans noticed because when John and I began work on Swamp Thing and we started doing comic shop appearances and convention appearances, I think it happened more than once, but I remember the first fan who came up to us and went, "You guys are friends?" Like he had noticed this. He thought we hated each other. We were like, "Yeah, we're like best of friends." So when we started Swamp Thing, we knew we couldn't put Bissette eats shit or Totleben eats shit in the back of a DC comic. So we started sneaking Gumby, the Art Clokey clay animated character Gumby, into Swamp Thing, starting in our first collaborative issue that John and I did, Swamp Thing number 16.
Okay.
Scripted by Marty Pasco. We snuck Gumby in there. Then in number 17, we got more clever. There's a panel where I drew this really bizarre looking worm-like monster. And if you turn the page upside down, when you can see the bottom of the worm with this little sucky mouth part, it's Gumby.
Okay. That's one of the Pasco issues.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I suddenly get a call from Len Wein, and Len was always great to work with as an editor. He calls one day and he doesn't even say hello on the phone. He says, "You are playing a very dangerous game, young man." And I'm thinking, oh no, I turned in the pages I was always late, Kumar. I turned in the pages too late or whatever. He had spotted the Gumbies and he forbade us to draw any more Gumbies.
Okay.
So at this time, we're talking 1983. At this time, the Police were a new band. I know it sounds old-fashioned and square today, but 83, they were pretty cutting edge. John Totleben was a big fan of the Police. Okay. And we both dug how Sting looked in the movie Brimstone and Treacle.
Yes.
Right? He had this look to him.
Yeah.
And I also had seen Quadrophenia. He plays Ace-Face in Quadrophenia. Yeah. So we decided, well, all right, we can't draw Gumby anymore. We're going to start drawing Sting, and we're going to stick him in the background. Now, at this time, we were exchanging. This is pre-internet.
Yep.
And we couldn't afford to call each other, Alan, John, or I yet. So we were writing long letters to each other, and both John and I let Alan know, we're going to keep doing this. We got to make him a character. So that appearance in the crowd is the first Constantine. Back in the 90s, one of the last pages of Swamp Thing original art I had ever sold up to that point in time, I was contacted by the story editor of the TV show Seinfeld. Okay. He was a huge Constantine fan. Okay. He wanted the first Constantine page, and he knew it was that page in Swamp Thing 25. Okay. And I sold him the page, and I got the most money I had ever gotten from a page up to that point in time. Right. And he also gifted me. A friend always tells me not to use the phrase "gifted" as a verb. He also gave me a Seinfeld TV shirt and a copy of the Seinfeld script with the woman with man hands. There's a running joke about Bizarro in that episode.
Yeah.
And he got it signed by everybody on the set, and I still have that script.
Wow.
So anyway, that in the 90s, that story editor considered that the first true Constantine page.
Right.
So
right.
There you go, Kumar.
So
the issue you referenced, Rick Veitch penciled. So.
Right. So so basically when I think of Swamp Thing of that era, I think of the Bissette, Totleben, Veitch team, and then I think there's like the Stan, Walk, Alcala, Sean McManus annex that kind of is coming in.
Yeah, and Ron Randall. Ron Randall was part of that. Yep.
So is the creator of Constantine, is your name one of the creators, or is it Veitch, Totleben?
Totleben and I were cited by DC as co-creators of Constantine.
Okay.
We lucked into it right when DC had changed their corporate policy, and they were beginning to pay fractional royalty, but a royalty nonetheless to the creators of new characters. And with the launch of Jamie Delano and John Ridgway's Hellblazer series, we got a call from Chantal Donice, who at that time was the head of DC legal department, that John Totleben and I were considered co-creators on Constantine, that we would be receiving some paperwork.
Okay.
And there was some controversy around it, but it didn't involve the fact that Rick had actually penciled the first Constantine. Rick now does receive money from that, but that was through the good graces of Alan Moore, and we can talk about that.
Okay.
And now, after decades of no credit for co-creating Constantine, I'd say about 10 years, sometime within the past decade or a little over a decade, whatever corporate regime was at DC during one period, reached out to all of us and wanted to clean up all the legal issues revolving around things that came out of Swamp Thing. And that particular legal department worked out contracts with John, Rick Veitch, and I. It was the three of us. And we cleaned up all that. So we get a percentage of some of the concepts and the characters that we had a hand in. So now John and I are named as co-creators of Constantine on, Justice League Dark video games and such as that. But that's a fairly recent development, Kumar. For a long time, we got money, but no credit.
Okay. So there was also an issue last time that you mentioned, that when the film rights for Swamp Thing were sold for that first Wes Craven picture, all of the licensing and stuff, everything came out of it, like you guys weren't getting any monies from that.
No, we got nothing. And Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson got, I believe, a bonus. A couple of bonus checks, but they were called bonus checks. There was no legal.
Okay. So Constantine was
not part of that.
Not part of that. Okay. So it was
all of the Constantine, the paper trail with Constantine in terms of illegal property with DC began with the launch of the Jamie Delano, John Ridgway series Hellblazer.
Okay.
So that became the point in which that administration, it was still Paul Levitz and Jeanette Kahn, where they were actively being aggressive about trying to make sure creators got something. And it was a few years later that Larry Marder, the creator of Bean World, reached out to me and let me know, Steve, you got to know, like he knew I had an axe to grind with Paul Levitz, a number of axes to grind with Paul Levitz. And Larry reached out and said, Steve, you've got to understand, Paul and Jeanette are going to all the surviving Golden Age artists and trying to take care of them. And that would have been the period when Jack Kirby was convinced to pencil Super Friends so that some of the Fourth World characters like Darkseid.
Superpowers. Yeah.
Right. Would begin. Oh, I'm sorry, not Super Friends, Superpowers.
Yeah.
So they were making an effort with the old school creators who were still alive. And we were among the first to benefit from being the first generation of creators who were now being treated with a bit more care and regard, and actually benefiting financially a bit.
Okay. And did DC Legal have any issue with Sting's likeness being in this comic?
I can't really answer that question except to say to you, when I first read the news in either the Hollywood Reporter or Premiere magazine, this is again pre-internet era, that Keanu Reeves had been cast as John Constantine, I thought, well, he's the furthest you can get from Sting, right?
Yeah.
A young Hawaiian actor instead of, a British musician. So, so I suspect they were worried, but I never got slapped. I mean, I've been talking openly about the Sting connection since we began. I never got a cautionary phone call or a slap on the wrist.
Okay.
I've never been informed by anybody that, they won't publish, DC asked us not to publish that interview because you said blah, blah, blah. That's never happened. So, and at some point in time, through the grapevine, we were told that Sting digs it, but I don't know that for a fact. I don't know.
Okay. So when you announced in this letter to Alan Moore that we're going to keep drawing this character, whether you like it or not, and he came back with this kind of almost Kolchak, the Night Stalker type, was this what were you expecting out of this?
I wasn't expecting anything, but what Alan's reference point was Jerry Cornelius, the Michael Moorcock character.
Right.
Okay. But in the occult realm, now I'm an old Weird Tales reader, so I instantly thought of, there were a number of occult detectives that were regularly appearing in Weird Tales, the pulp horror magazine from the 20s and 30s. So I connected him with that, and I to me, it also has roots back to the beginning of detective fiction with Edgar Allan Poe, The Murders in the Rue Morgue, so I loved it. And I was not as familiar with Jerry Cornelius and Michael Moorcock at that time as I became after Alan told us that. But I really only had read, I think I read the final program. And I had seen the Robert Fust film, The Final Program, which played here in America as The Last Days of Man on Earth. So I recognized the Jerry Cornelius connection right off. And I remember Alan and I having a couple of conversations. But he was also kind of the anti-Jerry Cornelius, right? Jerry Cornelius was sort of foppish in manner. I remember Alan really liking the black fingernail polish that the character wore in the Robert Fust film. There's none of that about John Constantine. John Constantine is his own worst enemy. And I guess that's consistent with Jerry Cornelius's attitude about the world and himself. So
I think but it feels like there was something in the water, because Clive Barker's Harry D'Amour was also 85. Dylan Dog was 86.
Oh yeah, it was out there. We were part of a generation. I know that my compatriots didn't feel the obsession I had with wanting to revive horror comics. But to me, all those things you're naming, I was aware of at the time because I was trying to keep up with what was going on with the horror genre in comics and in literature. And, Alan Moore was mailing us the Sphere paperbacks one by one of the Books of Blood as they came out in the UK. John Totleben and I were devouring Clive Barker before other Americans had access to that work. And I definitely knew about Dylan Dog because I have fans in Italy that were sending me Diabolic. I love Diabolic, right? Yeah. And one of them sent me a care package with a couple of the fumetti neri of Diabolic. And here's a new character, Dylan Dog. And years later, I got to see Cemetery Man, which was the American title for
Della Morte, something like that.
Yeah. And so I was following that. And it was definitely in the Zeitgeist. And I would argue you're correct, Kumar, in that I think it was a carryover from a longing for Karl Kolchak to have been more than he was in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Karl Kolchak was a terrific character in the two made-for-TV features, The Night Stalker, The Night Strangler. And when he got his TV show, Dan Curtis was cut out. Richard Matheson had no part in it. And they watered down Karl Kolchak, as American television always does. They watered down John Constantine because NBC was the primetime carrier of the Hellblazer show. So I think it was a carryover from nostalgia for Karl Kolchak.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about, Clive Barker, Alan Moore, I mean, these are people who were very aware of where Kolchak had come from. There was none of that rumpled reporter. It wasn't an attempt to do like film noir archetypes. It was something different.
Yeah.
And the European take on it and the British take on it was very different. I would argue that Clive Barker was the only one who was really trying to riff on, the 1940s hard-boiled detective archetype.
Right.
Alan was doing something else altogether. And once Jamie Delano and John Ridgway had the book, the series for their own, Jamie took it where he took it, which was very inventive and quite apart from any easily traced precursor or predecessor.
Right. So that actually leads right into my next question, which was, to me, Swamp Thing in Louisiana is very American. John Constantine seems very British. Did you have to shift your mindset in any way in drawing it, or?
I didn't, because I didn't. I mean, let's put this right out there. I didn't get to draw much John Constantine.
Yeah.
I really didn't. I mean, if you look at the issues I actively had a hand in, Rick Veitch played a much more prominent role in delineating Constantine as Constantine. But, it started with John and I playing a joke on each other. Keeping ourselves. When you're a cartoonist, you find ways to keep yourself invested and interested in the work at hand. And working on a periodical comic is a real grind, Komar. Even when you're working on something you're excited about, you constantly have to find ways to kind of trick yourself. I had certain tics that drove my editors bug fuck. I would draw the pages out of order.
Okay.
Not to be an asshole, but for me, story structure in comics is a visual narrative. It's not a literary narrative. And for me, especially when I was working with something so brilliantly crafted as drawing from an Alan Moore script, where Alan spelled out all the little cues and connections. If there's a cue on page 3 that's going to be picked up on page 21, it made perfect sense for me to draw pages 3 and 21 together.
Okay.
So that I was carrying that visual cue over with an immediacy to it, because my drawing, if you've ever seen photocopies of my pencils, they look spastic. It was all about the energy and the urgency of what I could do with my hand and a pencil. So working up these games like, oh, let's sneak Gumby in, oh, let's sneak Sting in, was a way of keeping it fun, keeping it a level of play, because it was really hard work. And it was never ending. That's what made it a grind. There was no I'm done. The next issue was right there, waiting to be started. So.
Were there any other things in the background that didn't grow into supporting characters, like any other gags that stayed back there? I mean, obviously, Gumby.
Sure. Well, the one I remember, which actually we never intended to be anything but the second installment of the 2-part Mandingo riff. That Alan scripted. We did the two zombie issues of Swamp Thing, if you will, early in the American Gothic arc. Alan's scripts were often hilarious, and the opening page of the one I penciled that John Totleben inked involved a splash with, I believe, 5 equal-sized horizontal panels of we're watching a corpse underground in a coffin as it's like moving around.
Yeah, the second issue.
Alan scripted in this whole thing where he said, there's a family of beetles down at the foot of the coffin, and Papa Beetle is arguing with Mama Beetle, right? Okay. And he carried it through the first 4 panels, like these insects in the coffin. And then in the fifth panel, he said, these characters haven't worked out their potential at all. Just forget about it, Steve. So, those are characters you never saw.
Right. Okay.
But, we could have developed them into some sort of rich personal mythology. No, I mean, I wish we had done more of the kind of things that Marty Pasco and Tom Yates set up, the punk vampires. Alan, John, and I plotted out the two-parter with them now being underwater because of flooding and a dam. I got punished by Karen Berger because I was behind, so Stan Walk got to pencil the first issue, and I was immediately to start on the second issue of it. So, I wish we had more of those kind of callbacks, not just to what Marty and Tom had done, but we did quite a bit with the Spectre, Phantom Stranger, Dead Man. I mean, those were all callbacks for all of us to, but it wasn't the same as what you're asking about. No, I think the only one that really grew into something of significance, here we are talking about it 40 years later, was John Constantine. So
he got his own title, Hellblazer. I'm not sure. I guess the Hellraiser movie, they say, was the reason it wasn't called Hellraiser. I don't know if that's true or not.
It wasn't called Hellraiser because not only was there the Clive Barker film, Hellraiser, but also at the time, Epic Comics had licensed Hellraiser from New World Pictures.
Of course.
So the comic book market, when you trademark a property, Kumar, you have to trademark it within certain marketplaces, right? Like when I trademarked S.R. Bissette's Tyrant, I didn't call it S.R. Bissette's Tyrant out of ego. It's because I couldn't trademark the word Tyrant. There were other products called Tyrant in the market. But, just as Walt Disney doesn't own Cinderella, but they own Walt Disney's Cinderella.
Right.
That's why I did S.R. Bissette's Tyrant. Now, once New World Pictures and Marvel had signed a deal on a Hellraiser comic based on Clive's concept of the Cenobites and that whole universe. That's why DC, they had to do Hellblazer as a compromise. I think it was a cleverer compromise than Marvel Man becoming Miracle Man. But,
yes. So were you still working for DC at the time that regular series started, or were you done at that stage?
I had stepped away. I'd have to look at the dates and the issues, but I was still doing covers at Swamp Thing for quite a while. And I also, Karen Berger, our editor on Saga of the Swamp Thing and Swamp Thing, founder of the whole Vertigo line. And it was Karen that launched Hellblazer. It was part of her editorial clutch of titles and properties. Karen had encouraged me to write. So I ended up scripting a number of issues of Swamp Thing, including an annual. So I still had my hand in there, but I won't go into all the reasons, but I had really, it was Karen that kept me involved. I wanted to continue working with Karen, and I loved all the characters. So I still had my hand in it as Animal Man, Hellblazer, Sandman, that original 3 or 4 titles that became foundational to the Vertigo label once it was created. By the time Vertigo became Vertigo, I was gone. I think that was 93, 92, like that, 93, somewhere in there.
Okay, so movie goes into production around 2005, or it comes out in 2005. Did you have any insights? So you said you read in the trades that Keanu had been cast.
Yeah.
Did you know anything else about it?
No, we didn't know anything about it. We were never invited to any premieres or anything. I do remember John Totleben. I could be misremembering which convention he was at, so I won't name a convention, but John was at a convention where some film reps were there from Warner Brothers, and they were showing a preview of Constantine, and they expressed interest in, maybe getting John and his wife Michelle to attend a premiere someplace. But I paid my money the same way everybody else did to go see it when it opened in Brattleboro, Vermont, or Keene, New Hampshire, one of the 2 theaters closest to me at that time. So I didn't have any inside information. And by that time, I was pretty estranged from DC.
Sure.
And it was actually Rick Veitch who informed us, hey, guys, we're going to be seeing some option money.
Okay.
And it's going to come at the end of the year. Because I remember we had time to plan with our tax preparers.
Okay.
What we were going to do, because I think Rick told us around September.
Of 2004? 2005?
It was either 2000. It was either 2004 or 2005.
Okay.
I'd have to look back at financial records, but it was right at the end of that respective year. And I'm not kidding. We got the money like the last week or 2 weeks of December of that year. Now, this meant our income taxes were blown, kablooey. But because Rick had gotten a heads up and he had let us know, we had time to work with our tax preparer. We did things like buy computers. We didn't have the money yet to really buy computers, but whatever we could spare, we bought whatever would be tax deductible to try to bring our tax bill down.
Okay.
The fringe benefit for me, Kumar, is one of the only pieces of original art that I craved. I was able to buy that December, and it was the last thing. I got a call from our tax preparer saying, you got a choice. You either find another $2,500 to spend on something that I can justify as an expense of your business, or you're going to end up owing $5,000 more in taxes. Really? That's how the numbers shook out.
Yep.
So I reached out to a friend who runs an animation gallery and said, are there any Winsor McCay Gertie the Dinosaur cells out in the market? And he found two. The one I couldn't afford had Gertie facing the viewer.
Okay.
But there was another one where Gertie was looking back at the sea serpent coming up from the lake. That one I could afford, and it was perfect. My tax preparer went, yep, that's, you work in comics, you're a cartoonist, you write about film and animation. I can, that's legit. So.
There's a bizarre chain of connection there, because this guy who directed this movie, Francis Lawrence, directed the Nemo and Slumberland movie in 2022.
Yes. Which Mobius worked on. Jean Giraud had some role.
He worked. I thought he worked on the '80s one.
I think
cartoon.
You're right. Okay, I think
the 2022
you're right.
one. It's got Jason Momoa in it. I haven't seen it, but it doesn't sound much like Nemo and Slumberland from what I've heard.
No.
And like the writers were. I looked up the writers. I really couldn't. I don't know how the choosing of crew works in Hollywood, but like one of them had written the Hulk Hogan movie Suburban Commando. That was like his big credit. The other had written
that makes perfect sense,
I guess. And one had written Glimmerman. So it's like really, I don't know.
We have to remember that these deals are put together by agents and lawyers.
Yeah.
They're not put together by creative people. Yeah. And I'm not in any way denigrating the amazing work that went into the Constantine film. I'm a fan of the Constantine film.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that it all revolved around Constantine giving a big fuck you to Satan at the end of the movie made it work for me. I was like, okay, this is,
Yeah.
I also thought the beginning of the film, the first half hour or so, caught something essential about the Vertigo. I don't want to say the Vertigo template, because Vertigo was quite a diverse line, very inventive and diverse line. But if we trace the Vertigo line back to the work that Alan and the rest of us were doing on Swamp Thing, in that early run of Swamp Thing that culminated in Down Amongst the Dead Men, the annual #2, the issue that I first worked with Alfredo Alcala on, I penciled and Alfredo inked, opens with, the Joker stops laughing in Arkham Asylum, and all this Fordian phenomenon is inexplicably happening in different places. And there's this kind of shockwave of supernatural and preternatural activity that's manifesting itself. And that becomes the harbinger of Arcane making his most aggressive move in our plane of existence after his death and damnation. And I felt like the beginning of the Constantine film perfectly captured that. And I feel like, I mean, whenever I worked on a book or a character that wasn't mine, I'll give you an example, right? When I was invited by Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman to do something with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we all became friends. I used to go down to Mirage Studios almost every week and just hang. When I was invited to do a story, I did a story for a collection that I think was called Shell Shock. And I did a story that was pretty gruesome where I tried to get to the core of what's the relationship between Splinter and the four turtles. So when when I look, I do a lot of writing now about pop culture, comics, film. I do commentary tracks and Blu-ray bonus features. I'm always trying to get to the nut of, what's the primal element of the storytelling here, or the characters, or both. And that's why I like the Constantine film. I felt like that opening half hour did capture that moment in Alan's scripting of Swamp Thing that I was lucky enough to pencil, and Alfredo did a great job on the inks. It wasn't the same as working with John, but I felt like it did capture that essence. So I was on board. I was with it.
All right. There's a rumor, I don't know, it says on Wikipedia that apparently at one stage Tarsem Singh was attached to direct it.
Wow.
From what a movie that would have been.
Oh yeah. I mean, here's what's happening with licensed comics and licensed franchise motion pictures is the studios and the corporate proprietors want creative individuals, and then they want to stifle them. It's still filmmaking by committee, and it's very rare that they break out of that. And you and I would love to see that film, but DC would be terrified of that film.
Right.
Look at what a botched job Universal Studios has done in trying to it's been 4 times now, if not more, trying to build a franchise of Universal monsters, right?
Yeah.
And I recently, I'm friends with David J. Scow, the writer and screenwriter. David is obsessed, as I am, with The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Okay.
Universal has started and scuttled countless plans to remake Creature from the Black Lagoon. Who did it right? Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
Water, a film that Universal never would have allowed to exist, much less the masterpiece it is. It's the perfect creature film, right? Yeah. It's the perfect creature film.
Why wouldn't you just let him do what he wants to do? That to me is baffling.
Well, I agree. I mean, but let's cut to the chase, though. Kumar, Paramount Pictures had a self-fulfilling bankroll every year that made billions of dollars called Friday the 13th, and they never accidentally made a good one.
Yeah.
Right. At any point in time, they could have gone, to the Coen brothers and said, here, we'll give you whatever you need. Just make your Friday the 13th movie. They'd rather have a piece of shit by a new filmmaker. And some of those films, I mean, and again, I don't mean to disparage the work of the creative people who put all their energy and love into those movies. But if you can't accidentally make a good Friday the 13th Jason movie, it's kind of a miracle that we've had any of these comic films. Occasionally, accidents happen, and brilliant films like American Splendor happened, right? The perfect conjunction of filmmakers. Harvey and Joyce were still alive and with us in this world. The filmmakers wanted to have Paul Giamatti meet Harvey, and not just meet him, but let's put them together. I mean, that film to me is like one of the greatest adaptations of anything from comics, but it's not a high ticket license, right? No studio was risking, we can't screw up this franchise, which is going to generate us money as long as there's life on planet Earth. And we occasionally get, miracles like Tim Burton's Batman 2, where they were so desperate for Burton to come back that they said, no, you can do whatever you want. And we end up with this marvelous mongrel of a movie. But yeah, Constantine was neither fish nor fowl.
Right.
I think what the writer and the director did was pretty phenomenal, given all the things that can and that we have seen go wrong with these kind of franchise pictures.
Yeah.
And I love it for what it is. I mean, there's some great casting in there. There's some wonderful moments. But you know, they also botch a lot of basic things as well. How do you not make the Invunci the most terrifying thing on the screen, you know?
Right.
So
Right. So I feel like at this point in history, I feel like John Constantine has a higher profile than Swamp Thing. Even though he started out as a supporting character, we've got the movie, we've had the TV series. There's all different versions. There's toys. There's like a young adult version I noticed DC.
Oh yeah.
Doing.
Yeah.
There was a video game based on the movie. I noticed that the Lego DC Supervillains video game had Constantine as a character in there.
And we get a little piece of all of that.
Okay.
Like John and I split a fraction of 1%.
Okay.
And we make more every quarter off everything with Constantine than we do off of Swamp Thing.
Okay.
We didn't create Swamp Thing, of course.
Yeah.
So.
I'm glad to hear that. What's your relationship? Did they send you boxes of this stuff? Do you see any of it, or is it just
we don't
money?
get any of that stuff. No,
Okay.
we don't. As a matter of fact, I mean, sometimes you know, my wife is happy that I don't get lots of Constantine stuff. Right? I live in a pretty cluttered existence here in my library and basement collection room, but we don't get any of that stuff. It's very, very rare that we get one. I don't have the Constantine omnibus. I'd love to read that all together. You know, we don't get comp copies of that.
Okay.
It would be nice, but it doesn't happen. And you know, some stuff sometimes it sticks in your craw. There was recently a Todd McFarlane Swamp Thing action figure. I'm not sure what the correct term is to use these days. And it's the cactus Swamp Thing. That Rick Veitch created and that I drew on the cover of the comic. Now, they used my comic cover art as the backboard of the blister pack, and they removed my signature from the artwork.
And Todd McFarlane released this.
Hey, thanks, Todd.
And
just a shout out, Todd. Thank you.
And did they warn you that they were going to use this?
No, of course not. I always hear from fans. You know, fans will, you know, say, no, I didn't know it was coming out. But that's where it's at. That, you know, your own work appears on something and your name in production is removed from the artwork.
Okay.
Oh, well, work for hire. Work for hire means literally, Alan did not write Swamp Thing. Steve Bissette did not pencil Swamp Thing. John Totleben did not ink Swamp Thing. We were the meat puppets that made marks on paper to fulfill the imagination of our corporate masters, and they create all of this work. We just happen to manipulate the tools necessary to express
the assembly line robots, I guess.
We're less than plankton.
All right. Yeah. So we the story about DC Legal and Constantine. Now, what was this story?
Okay, so I have no idea if Chantal Delnice is still out there in the world. I don't go tracking, you know, attorneys that I've spoken to in the past. Chantal was the head of DC Legal, or at least the rep that spoke to us. And we were contacted by DC concerning a creator royalty plan and that we would be getting a piece of John Constantine. But we would be getting paperwork that they expected us to sign that on page, I'm not sure it was a 2-page contract, but let's call it that for the simplicity of conversation. Page 1 spelled out everything John and I would be getting for having been two of the artists who co-created John Constantine. Page 2 is we signed that away to John Ridgway, the artist on Hellblazer. Okay, now why? Chantal Delnice didn't discuss with us the why, but we knew the why. We were friends with Alan Moore. Alan, when he got the news from Karen Berger that they were going to splinter off John Constantine into his own series, Alan suggested his friend Jamie Delano. Jamie and Alan had been friends since their youth as the writer. And Alan refused any royalty. He said, whatever I would have gotten, give it to Jamie.
Okay.
DC promised the same to John Ridgway.
Oh.
Yeah. I love John Ridgway's work. John, we love you. So this wasn't about a personality thing. This wasn't a personal thing. This was, we knew that DC had promised something to John without discussing it with us. And also, Chantal called John Totleben first because John Totleben was in good graces with DC. I had already pissed off DC somehow.
Okay.
So John calls me immediately after getting off the phone with Chantal, and he says, Steve, Chantal Donice is going to call you. This is what it's about. And we decided we're going to play good cop, bad cop. I'm going to be the bad cop. John's going to be the good cop.
Okay.
He's going to be the reasonable sounding one on the phone. Okay. I'm going to be the asshole on the phone. I got nothing to lose. Chantal calls me, very sweet, starts the conversation, describes, the deal, and then says, and we're going to ask you to. And I said, well, no, Chantal, if John Totleben and I are due $5, $2.50 goes to John Totleben and $2.50 comes to me. John and I always split everything half and half that we had control over. And I said, if you promise John Ridgway something, that comes out of your share, out of the DC share, right? Like, she tried everything, Kumar. I began getting phone calls at odd times of the day from Chantal with her new tactic of how she was going to. And, usually she would call John Totleben first to kind of feel him out. And John would give me a ring and say, you're going to hear from Chantal. So I had a minute to kind of prepare myself. And I wasn't ever rude. I never was abrasive, but I just dug my heels in. I said, and I would always use that metaphor. She got sick of it. Chantal, if we're due $5, $2.50 goes to John Totleben, $2.50 comes to me. If you promise John Ridgway a share, it comes out of DC Comics. She tried, I had done an interview with the Comics Journal, about creator rights. She tried the creator rights talk with me. You care so much about creator rights. I'm like, yeah, I do. And if you promise the creator something, then pay them what you promise them. But you're not taking it out of our pockets, right? If we co-created Constantine as artists, no diss to John Ridgway, but he was nowhere in my studio in Marlborough, Vermont when I penciled that first image. I know John Ridgway wasn't in Rick Veitch's studio, and they didn't want to hear about Rick Veitch at that time over other upsets. She finally called me with a last-ditch effort where she was trying to shame me into it. And I just said, Chantal, we've been round and round and round and round this. We know that Alan promised Jamie what would have been his share, and if DC promised the same deal to John Ridgway, you don't take it out of our pockets. You take it out of DC's share. You guys own the majority of this. It's work for hire. I really appreciate that we're getting anything at all. I was always conciliatory about that. She got so pissed at me that she said, it was so much easier when we didn't have to deal with you creative people. And she hung up the phone on me. I never heard from her again. And when we got the paperwork that we signed, it was just John and I, what our share would be. So, and, to this day, John and myself and now Rick, I believe it was Alan who deeded Rick a share. From what we don't know, because Alan had given his share to Jamie Delano. At some point, DC must have gone back to Alan, trying to get back in his good graces. But anyway, the three of us get royalties for John Constantine to this day, and we only get what we get because, John Totleben and I were hand in glove with each other with everything we did on the book. I recently revisited in a text piece the work that John and Alan and I had done on the Crisis on Infinite Earth crossover issue on Swamp Thing. And that was the issue where John and I decided we're done.
Okay.
This isn't fun anymore. And the way John put it informally at the time in conversation was, yeah, we put the car on the road and now they want us in the back seat. John reminded me of something I forgot, which is the very day in his studio inking one of the Crisis pages that he decided he was done. he says he went to reach for the phone to call me, and the phone rang, and it was me calling John, saying, John, I just got to give you a heads up. I'm done. Like, I'm going to wrap up whatever we got to do, and I'm done. And then John laughed and said, I was about to tell you the same thing. I mean, John and I were in sync on such a primal, loving level during the whole time we worked on that book, despite all the crazy shit that was going on. And we both were definitely in solidarity about the Constantine thing. We were very happy we were getting a share, but that's no reason to give it up either. So
exactly.
We had no idea what it would mean down the road. As far as I'm concerned, if DC had yanked that away because of the stance on negotiations, well, typical corporate comics, then they didn't really want to negotiate. The fact is they were negotiating, and we held our ground. So we're still very thankful. It was a good cop, bad cop that we played as well as we could have.
Yeah,
so.
and it worked out in the end, I think, given the legs the character has.
I earn more not drawing Swamp Thing than I ever earned drawing Swamp Thing.
Oh, that's happy and sad, isn't it?
It is. It is both. I mean, I loved working on the book. John loved working on the book with me. All these things come to an end.
Yeah.
And we have no regrets over that. But had things gone differently, there would have been much, much more that we had done before we reached our end. But I've never understood the corporate culture. This goes back to what we were talking about with adapting, comic properties into these feature films and TV shows. Why place all these obstacle courses in front of creative people that you really want to do their best work? Well, that's business as usual in the clash of corporate and creative, when it should be the synthesis of corporate and creative.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So there's persistent rumors about a sequel. Even this year, Keanu was saying they had submitted a story idea for approval or something to DC. Do you hear anything about this? Has Rick Veitch called you and say, hey, there's more option money coming around or anything?
No, we don't hear anything. I mean, I'll probably find out online, or someone will send me a link to a Hollywood Reporter story.
Right.
There have been, it still works that way. Well-intentioned fans, and I do thank all of them, will send me a link when there's a Guillermo del Toro says he's interested in doing Swamp Thing kind of thing. James Gunn is now, I hope they happen. I'm a movie junkie. I will go see them. I have no expectations. I would love to be delighted. But you'll know before me, Kumar.
Okay.
I have no doubt.
Okay. Last word. We've been saying Constantine the whole episode. Some people are going to say it's Constantine. What is your take on it?
We always said Constantine. I don't give a shit with it. I'm from Duxbury, Vermont. I don't speak English very well. And John Constantine. John Constantine. But I can tell everybody out there, it's Rick Veitch.
Yes.
Veitch.
Yes.
Okay, Veitch. And it's Totleben. And it's Bissette, not Bassetti or Bassett. So I can give you correct pronunciations on our names. So.
Okay, we're back. Thank you again for that, Stephen. Lots of revelations.
Yeah, amazing. The true story of the origin of Sting / Constantine. I can imagine writing a letter to Alan Moore and telling him he's got to be Sting.
Yes, whether you like it or not.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And the legal thing with DC.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yep.
Fancy them trying to browbeat him. I just can't believe that. Well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So shonky, but good on you, Stephen, for sticking it up. And Constantine would be proud.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Constantine got his own series, which is presented as an immediate sequel to what was going on in Swamp Thing. In Swamp Thing, there was this big thing with darkness taking over the world, and he pulled together his 5 buddies. They all got killed.
Yes. He recruits Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Swamp Thing plays a pretty big part. He has to go. They have to go to South America and fight the secret rulers of the world, who are some sort of human skin wearing warlocks. The Brujeria from in Patagonia.
Yes. Yes.
And they defeat them, but the apocalypse has already kicked off, and there's this enormous earth-shattering situation tied in with Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yes, that's part. Yeah, that's unfortunately timed in the middle of that other darkness that Alan Moore was planning. One thing I really loved about his first appearances in Swamp Thing was he shows up and he's like, "Hey, I have some information about you. You have no idea about yourself." This is before Swamp Thing was revealed to be this big elementalist. He didn't know anything about his own history.
Yeah.
So he's like, "I'll reveal it to you, but you need to do some stuff first.
Yeah.
Like, you got to fight all this stuff. Like, there's these vampires. You need to go to New Orleans."
And he's just on top of everything. He just knows everything. He's like Obi-Wan, right? But he won't tell.
He won't tell something exactly what he says. I'll give you. You do this thing for me, and then I'll tell you some of what you want to know. So he sends him to the first place, and Rosewood. That's where he fights the underwater vampires.
Vampires. Yeah.
And then Constantine will show up at the end of the issue, and he'll be like, "Hey." All right, and something's like, "Look, you tell me what's going on. You said you tell me." He says, "Look, you got to do this other thing first." Constantine says, "Go to this other place, fight this werewolf."
So the story is the Brujeria are like charging up a mystic battery in the US by having all of these supernatural things happen to create more kind of like mass belief in the supernatural, in ghosts and wizards and zombies and stuff.
Yeah.
And somehow Constantine is aware of all this, and he sends Swamp Thing from place to place to deal with each of the situations.
Yeah.
And each time he does, he reveals a little more of what he knows
but barely
about Swamp Thing. But it's hardly anything.
Very frustrated with this. Yeah. And when he finishes with it's my favorite bit of Constantine ever. When he finishes with the werewolves, Swamp Thing says, and Constantine shows up at the end again. And he says, and Constantine hands him a little slip of paper that's folded in half. Says, "Here's your next destination." Swamp Thing's like, I'm not doing what you say anymore.
I'm not going. I'm going home to Louisiana.
You promised me information you haven't given. I'm going home to Louisiana. Constantine says, "Fine, do what you want." Swamp Thing throws away the piece of paper. He says, and Swamp Thing's like, "What?" And Constantine says, "Yeah, just do what you want. Fine. Okay, bye."
And he walks
off. And then Swamp Thing picks up a piece of paper and reads it. It says Louisiana on it.
Of course. Yes, he's here. This Constantine is a little different from his later kind of iteration in the Delano book because he's very much in control all the time with Swamp Thing.
Yes.
He's just Swamp Thing. He's just like a puppet on a string for Constantine here. He has all the information and he's a master manipulator. As time goes on, his character will develop more and he becomes more like what we were saying before, a real bumbler. Improviser and sacrificer of his colleagues, as well as massive drunk and general basket case. He's a great character. I really love Constantine.
So then he gets his own series called John Constantine Hellblazer.
Yes, and we've discovered the origin of Hellblazer too.
Yes,
I can't believe it.
Yes.
We've been thinking. I've always been wondering why was this. I used to think. Well, you heard it. Used to think it was because of the Hellraiser movie. That's the received wisdom. Now we know better. It's because of
the Hellraiser comics, the licensed comics, which I've read. I've read some of those. Okay, so when he gets his own series, it
picks up, as you said, right where it left off.
Right where it left off. There's this demon called Nemoth that has arrived and it's been set loose and makes people hunger for the things that they're obsessed with.
Yeah.
So, for example, it infects this priest, and the priest starts eating the cross, like with Jesus on it.
He starts eating Jesus.
He starts eating Jesus.
Which is kind of that's a little further along. We generally see a glutton starve waste away to nothingness as he's shoveling food into himself. He starves to death. We hear about a guy that ate all his action figures, or is it
comic books? One person definitely ate all their comic books. Yeah,
yeah. So your greatest pleasure becomes you can't help but to overindulge in it, and it kills you.
Yes,
it's some kind of hunger demon.
Yes. So, in this one, Constantine goes to a magician, a Haitian heavyweight known as Papa Midnight.
Yeah. This is in New York, yeah.
Yeah, he's in New York, and he has this big high-rise, in which he has gambling. There's an arena where he has zombies fighting each other, like blood sports down there. And he's very much a Baron Samedi character. He's even dressed in the kind of suit.
Yeah, well, he wears I don't know how to feel about this. He looks like Baron Samedi. He wears a top hat, a suit jacket over a bare chest, and a grass skirt.
Yeah, there's some questionable choices here. I don't even think they talk about voodoo a lot. I don't think we talk about voodoo like that anymore, certainly, in 2025. I haven't seen a reference to voodoo as a zombie-raising thing in quite a few years.
So, it turns out that one of Constantine's old friends, a heroin addict, but also magician. A lot of Constantine's mates are kind of dabblers in the occult, and they're never doing well.
Yes.
Papa Midnight being an exception. I guess, I don't know, his magic is more rooted in his culture? I don't know.
And he's got... The other thing about the high-rise is, when Constantine was up at the top on the penthouse, it wasn't raining. And when we get to the end of the street, it's raining. And he's like, maybe it's above the clouds. He's kind of denying to himself that it was magic that was keeping the rain off the...
Yeah, because as we said, he does very little magic.
Yeah.
Which is just something I just love about him.
Yeah.
He just tricks people, cons people. He's famous for conning people.
He is a con man, yeah.
But he can actually do magic. I can do magic.
Can you do real magic?
Well, yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, it's sort of it's more metaphysical, but I mean, this is still real magic. I mean, it's just that you kind of it's a matter of thinking of things. It's more stuff that happens inside your head. I mean, this is perhaps too metaphysical for you to understand, but sort of it's not a kind of a physical thing, you know. It's much more subtle than that. But yes, I can do it. It's just that it's a more ephemeral, kind of ethereal kind of thing that we're talking about.
Yeah, so you can't then.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that I can do it, definitely. It's just that, I mean, you have to be in the right mood. You can't just do it at the drop of a hat. But yes, I can definitely do, like, real magic.
Sorry. All right. Where was I going with that? So it's his heroin addict buddy who also knows a bit of magic, and he comes across a boy in Morocco. And he realizes he's been possessed by a demon, and he's exercises him.
He's compelled to exercise him.
Well, it's like his addiction. He's addicted to heroin, and he's also addicted to magic. So he exercises the boy, and then compels the demon into a bottle. But he doesn't know what to do with it, and he can't handle it. And it's not perfectly imprisoned. Things are bad. He's shooting up like with bugs and weird stuff.
Yeah,
because it's a bug.
He's pulping bugs and shooting up bugs. Yeah,
it's compelling him to do these things. It's not. So he wants John. He knows John's the solution. Everyone comes to John with like their worst problems, even though he's a con man. He gets stuff done. But John is away fighting the Brujeria in South America, so he mails the bottle to New York, which is the last place, to Emma.
To Emma, John's friend. He figures John will show up there and get the package with the bottle in. He doesn't know what to do.
He didn't figure real hard. He mostly just, this guy's a loose unit.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's why this is all happening in New York. Constantine demonstrates his amazing capacity for travel, which we never see, but he's always able to travel.
Yes.
He's always in New York, and then he goes to Africa. He's in like an African village in the middle of it, somewhere in deepest, darkest Africa.
Yeah.
How did he get there? Who knows? How did he get there in a week? And how is he back in New York? It doesn't matter.
In fact, he does say 36 hours from Africa to New York at one stage, even with the stop back home to pick up his drug addict friend.
Magic.
What was his name? Baz, or...
I love that it happens off camera.
Oh, he has a friend, by the way, I have to mention Chaz. The taxi driver, his buddy that occasionally does errands or helps out in some way.
He is constantly... So, Constantine saved his mother from something in the past. And Constantine has never let him live it down. He's always calling him up. And he makes Chaz do like the worst jobs. He has to drive him everywhere in his taxi. He has to do all this shit work. He has to babysit the heroin addict. Chaz is like the whole way through the comic. In Spurrier's run, he ends up dying of lung cancer, which he caught from Constantine smoking in his cab all the time.
Jesus, right, that's right. That's right.
Constantine is a real piece of shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't want to go too much into this. I just want to mention that also Papa Midnight is presented as a very scary character to Constantine. Constantine is... He's shaking when he leaves, because Papa Midnight is that scary to him. And when they perform this ritual...
But he doesn't show that when he's talking to him.
Right.
He's always just mouthing off at him.
That's right.
Swear words.
He only ever is sarcastic. Constantine only speaks in sarcasm. He never says... He's never sincere in what he's saying.
As you said, it's like his defense mechanism. He constantly, he never speaks plainly. He's always just, making a joke or making a sarcastic comment.
Yeah. But there's some stuff in here about Africa, like the kids are starving, and there's something. It's all that kind of Ethiopia Live Aid kind of era stuff. But there's some funny bits because there's like an Oxfam poster behind him at one stage with this starving kid on it, and there's like implications. Anyway, the other one point I wanted to make is that when they perform the ritual on the heroin addict friend...
Well, what happens is Constantine has not told his friend, and we don't know either.
That's right.
But we find out, we perhaps should have figured it out, but at the end of the book, he's going to imprison the demon in his friend, who I think is called Gaz.
Gaz, that's right. That's right.
As in Chaz.
Gary Lester, yes.
They are going to starve... And when he's imprisoned in there, then Gaz will starve to death, and the demon will be vanquished.
Well, I think they're supposed to consume each other.
Yes.
I think that's why the bottle didn't work. And that Sudanese boy was supposed to be left in the desert they were supposed to consume each other.
Yes.
In this cycle.
He got rescued by...
He got rescued. Well, he wasn't rescued. He was taken as a slave.
He was taken as a slave.
Yeah.
So he didn't starve. They didn't consume one another the way they were supposed to.
Right.
So now that's Gaz's fate, and he's unaware of it right up to the end. And then, of course, they summon this horrible fly demon into him. And he says, "Constantine, you bastard!"
Yeah.
Then he dies, and wearing a straitjacket, and goes to join the ghosts of all of the other people.
Yes, that's the other thing. Constantine is haunted by the ghosts of the people who have died because of his machinations.
Mm-hmm. At this point, it's just the people from Swamp Thing, but there'll be more.
Yeah. The other thing I want to mention about this ritual is that they tie Gaz into this chair, which was
It's electric chair.
Electric chair from Sing Sing.
Yep.
Which, according to Papa Midnight, he's acquired this thing. He says that 300 people have died in this chair.
Yeah.
I just want to point that out because it turns up in the movie.
It sure does.
The other storyline we want to talk about is Dangerous Habits, which is maybe the most famous one, written by Garth Ennis. I can't remember who drew it at the moment, but it was because there was a lot of different artists on Constantine at the time.
So this is about issue 40 when...
41 to 46 or 45, something like that.
Yeah.
So the key point about this story is Constantine gets lung cancer.
Yep.
And it's basically 5 issues of him trying to find a solution.
Yep.
So we'll just talk about a couple of them that are relevant to the movie. One is that he goes to somebody called the Snob, who's in this very upper crust. I think it's like a club that's only for Oxford graduates or something like that, or Cambridge. Anyway, he goes to the Snob. The Snob turns out to be the angel Gabriel. So he's kind of like begging this angel to take the cancer out of him.
The Archangel Gabriel.
The Archangel Gabriel, yes.
He also visits a succubus called Ellie.
Yes. I think she's the one that suggests that he goes to see the Snob.
Ah.
Right? So,
right, yes.
She was first. And he goes to see a friend in Ireland.
See an old friend in Ireland who is dying, as it happens, of liver cancer, and had asked Constantine there. So Constantine was going to ask him for help with his lung cancer.
Yeah.
He's asked Constantine there to help him with his liver cancer, or has he? It turns out he's asked him there for a different reason, not to help him with his liver cancer, but to help him escape hell, presumably.
Oh.
Because I think it's implied.
Okay.
Because it's the night he's going to die. He has this other guy, not Constantine, has a bargain with. We assume it's Lucifer. It's like, and it's later.
It's just some devil. It's one of three. No, it's not Lucifer. It's one of three rulers of hell. There's a triumvirate. This is all tied into Sandman continuity.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
In Sandman, Lucifer had left hell. There was a storyline where Lucifer just quits, up and quits. He actually goes off to start a bar on Earth, a restaurant,
and gets his own comic.
Gets his own comic and TV series
and TV show.
Yeah. Yep. But there was this triumvirate left in charge of hell, so it's one of these three that's shown up to claim this guy's soul.
Ennis calls him First of the Fallen. He's basically just a Satan equivalent.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So Swamp Thing tricks. This guy made a deal with the devil. The friend had made a deal with this devil to brew awesome beer. Or to brew awesome alcohol.
Yeah, he would have all the best alcohol in the world.
Yeah.
And he's
found this like fountain of holy water under the
It's like a
He's living in like a lighthouse. or
sacred
something?
spring, but sacred to God.
And he's able to turn it into wine. And so,
but in this case, it's stout.
Yes, in this case, it's stout. But when the devil shows up to claim this guy's soul, Constantine says, "We'll have a drink first."
Yeah.
And he gives him a drink, and then
the spell is maintained only while a candle is lit.
Yes, and he snuffs out the candle.
He snuffs out the candle, and then the stout reverts to holy water in the demon's gullet.
Yeah.
He's super unhappy about that.
Yeah. He explodes.
Yeah. Constantine also, like, slashes his face with a bottle.
Yes.
And pushes him in the holy spring.
Yes.
Where he is discombobulated and goes back to hell.
So, but because of this insult, this demon now has claim to Constantine's soul, according to the rules of Canley in this universe.
Ding ding.
Yeah, so I'll do a little reading for Canley. Okay, right, so then he goes to see the succubus, and then he goes to the club where he talks to Gabriel, but finally what happens is he figures out, another thing we haven't mentioned is the comic, this series, it's non-stop narrative captions, or not narrative captions, it's voiceover, it's Constantine's thoughts.
Yep.
We are constantly privy to them. He's figured something out. We don't know what this trick is, but basically, here's the big spoiler, he sells his soul to two other demons.
Yep.
Then
Not just any two other demons, the
other two, the two big ones.
Yep. Azazel and Beelzebub, I think.
Oh, are they named?
Not in the comic itself, but they're who they are.
Okay. So, then
From Sandman.
He knows he's dying that day. He's like, I can only hold on today, and he's like...
Well, he cuts his wrists.
He does slit his wrists. The three demons show up. They each have a claim on his soul because he's contracted to two, and one has been insulted.
One has made it known across the length and breadth of hell that Constantine belongs to him for the insult done to him.
So, but if he dies, they'll have to go to war over his soul, and then somehow they would lose. This war would, I guess, spill over to heaven, and then heaven would win.
Yeah. Hell would be so weakened that heaven would automatically win.
Right. So they're like, well, we can't allow this to happen, so they have to make sure Constantine lives, so they take the cancer out of him. Very painfully tear his chest open, pull the bits of cancer out, and restore him to life. Yeah.
And then the final page is Constantine flipping them off.
Yes.
Very iconic image.
Yeah. Okay.
Says, up yours.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. There was no F words in Constantine comics, or any Vertigo comics or DC comics, even though they were rated for mature readers, until, I believe, Grant Morrison's The Invisibles, which would have been mid to late 90s.
Well, so not too long after this.
Yes. Okay, should we move into the movie?
Yeah, let's talk about the film.
Okay. My notes are chaos. I've written down things... I had no idea what was going on in this movie at any point, and this is going to be one of those episodes where you have to explain the movie to me.
Well, don't put too much faith in me, because it was a bit confusing to me as well, but I'll do my best.
Alright, so we get some logos, Warner Brothers, which of course owns DC Comics, and then we get a Vertigo
DC Comics.
Yeah, logo. Now we get a title card which tells us something about the Spear of Destiny.
Yeah, whoever possesses the spear will have power of some kind.
Yeah.
In a very generic font.
And it was, the spear has been missing since World War II, we're told.
Yes.
I wonder who had it before World War II.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
one of my questions. Yeah.
It was not an issue before World War II. Why is it only an issue now? I'm not sure.
I can explain this in terms of real-world history, if you like.
Yeah.
Okay, so the prop of the Spear of Destiny that we see, which incidentally is the same prop that was used for Hellboy a year earlier.
Well, okay, this is interesting, because there's a lot of Hellboy comparisons in here.
Yes. Is based on a real-life relic that's kept in Vienna.
Okay.
Which is purportedly the Spear of Longinus. It's not really, obviously, but it's been carbon dated, and it dates to, like the 6th century or something like that. But it's it looks really cool.
Okay.
So it's the head of a spear, and it's got this gold wrapped around it to make a kind of collar. And that's what it looks like. You can see pictures of it online. It's kept somewhere in Vienna. And, of course, in the Second World War and beforehand, the Vienna in Austria was under the rule of the Nazis because of the Anschluss, where Germany and Austria were made into one country. So Nazis were in charge. So you got Nazis. Anything occult and Nazis, it's Hellboy, right?
Yeah.
So that's why the spear's gone missing.
Well, my brain went to Neon Genesis Evangelion.
That's another. In that, it's like 100 meters long in
but
that.
Yes, but also this did not seem like a spear. It looks like a dagger.
It's just the head of a spear.
Right.
It's a holy relic.
Yeah.
So there are actually like 3 of them rattling around the world.
Okay.
But this is by far the coolest looking.
Okay.
Mostly relics, medieval relics don't look cool.
Right.
They mostly look gaudy and weird to us. But this thing looks awesome. So you
Okay.
can see why it keeps popping up in movies.
Okay, we're almost past the title card. The first 10 seconds of this movie.
I just also want to say that the font that this title card is in is really, really boring.
Yes.
It was so boring that I thought something was wrong with my settings,
Right.
and that they were subtitles, or
Right.
Or that-
it's
or that I
it's just
downloaded the wrong-
bland. There's some blandness issues in this movie.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, by the way, we haven't mentioned any of the creators because they're not listed till the end. But as we mentioned, Francis Lawrence, the director who later directed I Am Legend and Hunger Games, did 3 Hunger Games movies.
Yes, like 3.
And Slumberland, which we'll be talking about.
Did he really direct Slumberland?
Yeah, we'll be
Wow.
we'll be covering that one pretty soon. And the writers, I talked about this in the
Yeah, you
interview. Kevin
Schlock.
Brodbin, who wrote Glimmer Man with Steven Seagal. Jesus. And Frank Cappello, who wrote Summer Commando with Hulk Hogan. These are the guys.
So you can see these are the guys behind this really coherent story.
So we cut from the title card of It's Pure Destiny to two guys in Mexico who are scrabbling around in the dirt. I'm not sure what they're doing.
What are they doing?
They're just scrabbling in the dirt, and there's a crash through this wooden floor.
Now
they're outdoors, but there's a wooden floor. I guess
they're in the
some
ruins of a building,
of a church,
presumably a church.
And then down there is this dagger, which I'm like, is it a spear? Is it a dagger? Is that the actual spear that we were talking about? Because this thing looks like a dagger.
Yes, it does.
Anyway, he walks off with this dagger, and then he gets sandwiched by these 2 cars that smash into him.
It's just one car that hits him, but it folds itself around him because he's become the immovable object.
Oh, okay. Again, I couldn't tell what was going on in this movie.
It's weird. So
and then also the sigil forms on his arm out of blood, or is it burned or blood or something like that?
I missed that. Okay.
Well, the sigil keeps showing.
That might answer one of my questions, or it might just raise further questions.
It raises further questions.
But also, why is this holy relic wrapped in a Nazi flag to indicate the Nazi connection? It's wrapped in a swastika flag.
I didn't even notice that. Okay.
Why is it in Mexico?
Yeah. Great question. Why is it in Mexico? All good questions.
Right, Mexico fought against the Axis?
Maybe they meant...
sort of barely.
It's just the title card says Mexico. Why not just say Venezuela or something? And then,
Venezuela would be great, because you've got the...
Exactly. Then you'd be like, oh, yeah,
Argentina.
the Nazis took that. Argentina. The Nazis took it to Argentina. Maybe that would be a little bit...
Why Mexico?
Well, I think because this guy has to walk to the U.S.
You can walk to the U.S. from Argentina. If you can walk from Mexico...
Exactly. Well, he's got magic powers. Surely he should be able to do
You can walk from Argentina. That is such an obvious answer. Why didn't they do Argentina?
There's a big question about the timeline of the show, because I believe it takes place over one day.
Right.
But this guy walks from Mexico... I don't know where he's in Mexico. Maybe he's right on the border. Maybe he's in Tijuana. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, hopefully it's not right down the bottom.
Okay, cut to L.A.
It's not in Quintana Roo or something.
Cut to L.A. and we're in this apartment building, and this little girl is possessed. It's the one scary shot in the movie.
It is. It's pretty good. I mean, it's very much cribbing The Exorcist, but it's still... This is about the only time, I think, when I was really kind of invested in what was going on.
It was a good jump scare when the mom walks into the room and sees the girl up on the ceiling.
Very creepy, very... Yep.
It's a good moment.
It's very elaborate. He can't just exercise... He has to go through all these... Oh, sorry. Okay, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, now Constantine shows up.
Yeah.
We see the cigarette first. First thing we see cigarette... And then we see Keanu.
Yep.
Who doesn't look like Sting.
No. He looks like the opposite of Sting.
He looks like the opposite of Sting. This is 2005 Keanu. It's still kind of post-Matrix era.
Definitely post-Matrix era.
You know, he's still kind of... I mean, of course, he's unaging, but he was that version of Keanu.
This is Matrix era Keanu.
Yeah. He's trying to play disheveled, but he's still playing Surfer Keanu, really.
That's all he really knows how to play.
Yeah, which makes you wonder about the casting of him. He doesn't seem disheveled, he just seems like...
He looks like he's in the Matrix.
Yes.
I'm sorry, because he's wearing a black trench coat.
Yeah.
not a brown one. Constantine always wears a brown trench coat.
Yeah.
I read a quote online. Constantine was wearing trench coats before and after they were fashionable.
Yeah.
But he, brown didn't go well with his complexion because he looks like a vampire.
Okay.
So they put him in a black one instead, which has the effect, and of course his hair's perfect.
His hair, perfectly coiffed hair.
So he looks like he's in the Matrix. He looks like one of those leather-clad guys from the Matrix.
Yeah.
This film feels a lot like a Matrix film to me.
Yes, absolutely, 100%, 100%.
We talked when we did Blade.
It's Hellboy meets the Matrix. That's how they probably pitched it.
Oh, imagine that.
Okay, and by the way, he shows up in a cab which is driven by Chaz Kramer, played by Shia LaBeouf.
A very young Shia LaBeouf.
Very young Shia LaBeouf. He seems to be kind of an amateur or wannabe mystic. Like, he's reading up on this kind of sorcery and stuff. He wants to get into it. He's an apprentice almost to Constantine, and he wants to be...
Their relationship, it is not clear what their relationship is.
None of the relationships are clear in this movie. We'll try to pick them apart.
Oddly, they've put him in a kind of Andy Capp hat.
Yes. Yeah,
and
like it's the 70s.
Yeah. And he's, I guess Chaz wears one of those in the comics sometimes. They put him in a taxi, even though we don't know why he has a taxi. Chaz is a taxi driver in Hellblazer.
Yeah. That's
why he drives Constantine around everywhere, although Constantine never pays him. Here, Chaz is just, he's a hanger-on.
Yeah.
Like an earnest boy wonder kind of character. He reads a lot, but Constantine is like really rude, but not... Keanu is really disdainful, treats him... Hardly speaks to him.
Yes, and I don't think we get any backstory for why he needs to take this cab all the time. He can't just get any random
Can't he get a normal car?
Yeah.
Well, if Chaz has to drive him around, why doesn't Chaz drive him around in a regular car? Why does he have to be driving around in a taxi? What's their relationship? How did they meet? Why does he follow him around?
Don't know.
You never will know, because Chaz vanishes from this film about 15 minutes in and then doesn't show up until the last 15 minutes.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so the girl that was possessed was now tied down on the bed. I wouldn't grab that girl and tie her down.
How'd they do that?
Who did this? I would close that bathroom door or that bedroom door and get out of there.
These guys probably haven't seen The Exorcist.
They're seeing this girl on the ceiling. Get out of there. What are you doing? Okay.
Well, they call a priest, except the priest is hopeless. He's like a big fat...
Okay, no, this is confusing too. Constantine shows up, there's a priest there, this fat priest.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I got one for you. And he's very, like, weirdly, like, shifty, and he's, like, sweating, like, hey, man. Like, he's secretive about it, like, I got one, it's a good one this time, come on, man. Like, he's a junkie or something that is dependent on Constantine accepting the supernatural gigs he finds. I don't get
weird.
this.
He's really, like, he craves Constantine's approval or attention or something.
And then after the exorcism, Constantine is talking to him. I don't understand anything. And he's wearing this, the priest is wearing this amulet.
It's not a crucifix. Why would a priest wear a pagan amulet?
Yeah, what is that amulet?
We're never told.
And then Constantine takes it off him and puts it in the priest's pocket. He doesn't want the priest to wear that amulet for some reason.
No. Constantine takes the amulet.
Okay.
He takes it because he says he needs it.
He does?
Yeah, I think this is...
Why does he need it at this point in the movie?
He never wears it.
No.
He ends up giving it to Rachel Weisz, but I guess maybe in the script this seemed like a Constantine dick move.
Okay. Oh, right, okay.
But but because he never uses it, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, okay. So he does the exorcism.
It's very elaborate. First he has to... Yeah. He pushes like a saint's medallion into her forehead and burns her.
Yeah.
He's doing a bit of chanting. Well, the very first thing he does is he says, "It's John Constantine, asshole."
Yeah.
Which is shaping up to be his catchphrase, but which he never says again.
Right. Right. Because I guess the implications is this spirit, the possessing demon, will know who he is.
Well, we find out later that Constantine is a prolific exorcist.
Yes.
In fact, it's his job.
Yes.
He's not a blue-collar warlock in this film. He's not occult Doctor Who. Here, he is an exorcist.
Yes.
Kind of like how Blade was a vampire killer. And with a similar aesthetic.
Right.
He wanders around exorcising demons.
Yes.
Which he does.
And angels?
Well, it's not clear.
I have a question about this later in the movie.
It's one of my questions too. It's not clear. on the one hand, he seems to be enforcing the quote-unquote balance, because there's this big neutral pact between the forces of heaven and the forces of hell that they will not interfere directly in the human world.
Right.
Instead, only half angels and half demons are allowed to do that.
Okay.
That's what it...
Okay.
Well, what we never get any real detail, but it's
Okay.
what Constantine calls half-breeds.
Right.
They're allowed to go around, but they're not allowed... Even they're not allowed to interfere directly. They're only allowed to give nudges, apparently.
Yes. Okay.
Constantine wanders around looking for the demons that do more than nudge, and then he exorcises them back to hell.
Right.
Maybe. So, but he's also doing it because he's a sinner. He committed the sin of suicide, and he's trying to get into heaven by exorcising so many demons that heaven will have no choice but to let him in because he's such a good demon
done
exorcist.
so many good tasks.
Which is so dumb. First of all, Roman Catholicism is the only religion in this universe.
Okay, that's a thing. Okay, let's talk about it now. Let's open this up now. This is a thing that annoys me in movies.
Yep.
Any of your Seventh Signs, your
that's another movie this reminded me of, actually.
Where it's like they go to the Bible for revelations and stuff, and like, oh, it's the end of the world's happening, and they quote some lines in here, and it's a little bits and that, and you know, I'm going to say something crazy, but I actually, when I was a child, I loved Temple of Doom, because when I saw Raiders, even as a 6-year-old, I was like, oh, this is like validating Christianity.
Why is this true?
The arc of, why is this true? And then we get to Temple of Doom, and it's like, oh, like, these thuggies are like that, their stuff works as well.
Their stuff's true too.
Yeah. And that to me was so great as a kid.
Yes, 100%. And in in Hellblazer, everything's true.
Yes.
All of this Christian mythology exists alongside the mythology of all other cultures with quote-unquote voodoo, Chinese mythology, everything. It's all just thrown in, and none of it has precedence over any of the other of it. It's all just because we never look at it all too closely, so it's just all true.
Yeah,
which works great because he just wanders around and encounters all of these different things. Here, we've tried to lock it down with a bit of world building. The trouble is, when you do this, it creates more problems than it solves.
Sure. Yes. It's not even that. There's a lot of things that are creating problems in the writing of this, but that's one of the things.
Roman Catholicism is unambiguously true because suicide is a sin for Catholics and not necessarily a sin for other religions or religious denominations even.
Okay.
And yet here it's treated as, it's such a mortal sin that Keanu's going to go to hell because he tried to commit suicide when he was 12.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's one true religion. Great. Then we've got this idea of the bargain between presumably God and Satan, the Christian God and the Christian devil, that they're going to not interfere in the human world and see who comes out on top.
Yes.
A little like that. There's a Bible story like that. I forget who it's about. Job, maybe?
Okay.
The guy who sacrifices his child. He's going to sacrifice his child to the Lord.
Abraham,
yeah. So
I can't believe I pulled that out.
Nice work. So, but okay, this raises all sorts of problems. When did this occur? This bargain, is it in the last few years? Because, or is it, what about all the miracles?
They're trying to have it both ways.
Yeah,
they're trying to make their own mythology and say that all the stuff in the two Bibles is true. Yeah,
that doesn't work. It just creates problems because this demon, the one that he's exorcised from the little girl, which in the cool scene he makes it's really hard to exercise it. He presses that medallion on her forehead, he's chanting, that's not working. He asks them to bring in a mirror. He can somehow imprison it in the mirror by holding it above the bed and shoving it in the mirror, and then they
shattering the mirror.
Then they throw the mirror out the window.
A bit like Father Karras jumping out the window and breaking his neck to kill the demon that was in him. Wasn't it Father Karras in Exorcist?
Oh, right. No, I don't.
He says, come into me, come to me. The demon jumps at him, then he goes out the window and dies, and that gets rid of the Legion.
Well, here he does it better with a mirror. So this is a cool scene, and it's really. But this demon is trying to come into the human world, and we later find out that that's not something it's able to do because of this agreement.
They're not allowed to do.
Yeah. Well, no. It's supposed to be not because of the grand bargain or whatever. It's not. It can't do it.
It's not even possible.
But it is, and in fact, when Constantine talks to people about this, they all say that's not possible. That's not possible, but it is possible. So what exactly is this bargain if it doesn't even work?
Okay, yeah.
And it's not the last demon Constantine meets. Because there's a snake demon, or like a weird worm that walks kind of thing, which made up of bugs and snakes and crabs for some reason.
Yes, okay.
Constantine tells us that this is a fully fledged demon. How is it in the human world then?
Right.
Also, the Archangel Gabriel is in the human world.
Okay, we're jumping way ahead. We got to go through this a little bit of work because
I don't want to, though.
I'm going to confuse myself.
Sorry, alright, let's go back to the exorcist. He exorcises...
Doesn't matter. He exercises the girl. By the way, in the girl's apartment, there's a child's drawing of the spear on the wall.
Oh, the spear is somehow part of how they can come into the human world.
Why did she draw the spear?
Yeah, why? What is the demon thinking about the spear?
The demon thinking about the spear, so she drew it before she was crawling on the ceiling?
Did she draw it before she was possessed? Is she... Because it's sort of... Is she gifted?
Oh...
But no, the film absolutely does not answer these questions.
Okay.
Don't pay any attention to what I'm saying.
Okay. So now we cut to Rachel Weisz. This is, I guess, Mummy era, in a sense.
Yep.
So you got like Mummy, Matrix vibes happening here. Okay, so she is in confession. She's a cop and she has killed another person. She's apparently killed a lot of people as a cop. This is a key plot point.
She always knows where to go to shoot someone.
Yes. She knows how to find the bad guys and kill them.
That doesn't make you a good police officer. I've got to put that out there. She's a detective. She's not like in the SWAT team.
Yeah, I'm not sure why she hasn't quit being a cop at this stage.
She just really loves shooting people.
I guess.
It's America, after all.
Know. Okay, so he now she goes to bed and there's a confusing scene which is explained. For once, this is kind of explained later on.
Yep.
Suddenly, she seems to wake up after she's gone to bed. She wakes up in a hospital.
Yep.
And she goes up to the roof and she throws herself off the roof to her death into the pool.
Yeah, into a swimming pool, which is also in the hospital. Well, maybe it's a hydrotherapy
Wait a second. Did she go through the glass?
Yeah, she falls through glass, and then she ends up in a pool, and it's enough to kill her.
And I think she's got the sigil on her arm as well at this point, or is that later on?
She does have the sigil on her arm, yeah. Why?
Okay, but then you're like, what is going on? But then Rachel, the other, wakes up in bed, and you think it's a dream, but it wasn't a dream.
Yep.
It's her twin sister.
Yes.
So this is, again, Rachel Weisz, 20 years later, was in the TV version of Dead Ringers, so it's kind of... I was getting that kind of out of from this, too. But the sister is Isabel.
Yeah, she wasn't she? I forgot about that.
And
Make that connection.
And the cop is Angela. And so she goes to the crime scene and sees her own sister there.
Yep.
And actually I don't know how they did the special effect. It looks really good.
It looks really good. It's not a split. It's not an obvious split.
No, I don't think so. She's like touching the hair on the body and stuff. I don't know quite how they did it. It could have been CG, but it looks really good. Meanwhile, John Constantine is coughing up blood into a sink and goes to see the doctor. He's smoking in the hospital in 2005.
You can't do that.
I don't think he can do that in 2005.
But he's Constantine. He does what he likes.
I guess so, but it's revealed he has lung cancer terminal this time. The doctor says.
Yep.
Cut back to Mexico, and I guess the guy who picked up the knife. The spear. Because there was another guy there. I don't know what happened to that.
That guy, he just left that guy behind.
He's walking through a field, and all these cows are like dying as he walks past.
This is a holy relic.
Yeah.
This is one of the instruments of the Passion.
Yeah. It's the spear that supposedly killed Jesus, that the Roman centurion
it has the blood of Christ on it. Not mentioned really in the Gospels, but later on a whole mythology built up around it, like everything in the Passion. So this is unambiguously it's a great talisman. Like in popular culture now, it's become a great talisman for working great magical works, for good or ill. But I don't think it kills cows.
They just drop dead. Also, why only cows? Why not all the people?
Yeah. Why not the grass?
Why not dogs? Yes, grass. Why is it only cows?
CG cows.
Yes, CG cows falling over as he walks past them slowly.
He's
walking slowly from Mexico to...
It's going to take him a long time to get to New York. Oh, no, it's LA.
They're
in LA, sorry.
Yes, they're in LA.
I forget because it's always nighttime.
Okay, so...
There's another thing this and The Matrix has in common. It's always nighttime.
Yes, it's often a good way to cover up CG. Actually, if you want your CG to look better, set it at night instead of the day.
I've been bagging out this movie. The CG looks pretty good for 2005.
It does, except for one scene, I think, which is pretty bad, which we'll get to. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, so now, back in Constantine's apartment, he's got this kind of dealer that comes up named B-Man. He's a kind of dealer in magic objects.
Yeah, you got to have. Well, he's his gadget guy.
He's like the guy. He's a bit like
Chris Christopherson.
Chris Christopherson in Blade. Yes.
This is.
He makes the weapons. I use them.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got to have your gadget guy. This is a cliche, right?
Yeah. It's you. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to have your guy who brings you the stuff. You don't make the stuff because you're too busy fighting evil.
Yeah.
So you've got to have you got to have your plucky female sidekick, who I guess is Rachel Weisz, and you got to have your gadget dude who's wearing glasses and he's kind of small and has a furtive manner.
Yes. Okay, that almost doesn't matter. I think he's got these like globes with holy water in them or something maybe.
He does use gadgets I feel like he uses gadgets quite a bit.
Yes. Okay, so now because of his cancer, he goes to this place.
It's a church.
It's a church, okay. I couldn't figure out what this place was. Angela...
Or is it a church? It's full of books.
It's full of books. Seems like a library? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, you're right.
I
don't think it is a church, despite the fact that it's got a priest in it.
Yeah, there's a priest hanging out in there, and...
It's not a church, is it?
And Gabriel is hanging out in there.
Played by Tilda Swinton in
Is this her third
appearance.
So...
Snowpiercer, The Killer, and Constantine.
Yes, and I think she might show up again.
I'm sure she will.
So she's playing the angel Gabriel here. But hang on. So these two, Constantine and Angela, show up at the same time at this location, which we don't know what it is. She seems to know him. She's like, "You're always so rude," or something like that.
She saw him in the elevator earlier in the hospital.
Oh.
She says, going down, and he says, "I hope not," and then closes the door on her. He said,
okay.
Yeah, that's how
So she recognizes him from the hospital.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
I guess this is... I'll come back to this.
So when Constantine sees Gabriel has giant wings.
Yep. No reason.
And then the wings fold up and disappear. So was only he able to see those wings?
Yep.
So Angela couldn't see those wings and the priest couldn't see those wings?
No. Not at this point. Angela can see them later. But at this point, she can't. No. We don't know what's going on, though. It's not till later in the film we find out. Keanu also is not a wizard here. As I said, he's an exorcist. But the other thing about him is that he's an exorcist because he has the sight.
Right.
He can see...
He was born with his ability to see supernatural stuff.
Yep. He's always been able to see the demons wandering around. The demons that aren't allowed on Earth.
Yes.
According to...
Well, if they're half-breeds, I guess you can see half-breeds. Is that it?
I guess, but yes, I guess so.
Yeah.
And I guess they're everywhere.
Yeah. They're...
Like on the bus.
Yes.
He sees one on the school bus or something.
Yeah. Right? What do these half-breeds do? They just live normal lives, I guess?
I guess so.
And try to convince people to do good things or bad things?
Yeah, it looks like it. Because later we see them from all walks of life.
And also the demons have these kind of rotten zombie faces when he sees them. What do the angels look like when he sees the half-breed angels?
They just have wings. He sees another one.
Oh, he sees the wings.
That's what he sees, the wings. And the demons, they look all mouldy.
Okay.
Like a zombie.
Okay. So he tries to convince Gabriel to give him life, but she says, no dice.
He's asking for, is it an extension?
Yeah, or something like that.
Or just let me into heaven already. And he's like, I don't know what you want from me.
Right.
I've sent so many demons to hell.
Yeah.
When's it going to be enough? And Gabriel just basically, quite correctly, really says, it's not about killing demons.
Yeah.
It's about, the Christian virtues.
Yes. We don't know about his attempted suicide at this stage. It's not revealed until later.
She's clearly implying that he can atone for the life he took, she says.
Right. The life he took,
or she.
right. Yes.
Because, cleverly, they've cast Tilda Swinton as an angel. Angels allegedly have no gender. And of course...
I don't think they necessarily have wings either.
No, that's a later edition.
Yes. This movie's trying to have it every way.
Yeah. But she says, you can atone for the life you took in the usual ways. Self-sacrifice, humility and faith. And he says, I have faith. And she goes, no, you don't have faith. You have knowledge. Because you can see it's all real because you can see the demons.
Yes.
It's a virtue to not be able to see demons yet still believe in them? What the fuck, movie?
I think that, isn't that exactly what the Christian virtue is?
Yeah.
You have to believe even if you can't see it or have no proof.
It's the only kind of Christian belief there can be.
Yeah.
But, okay, so if Roman Catholicism is true, and fragging demons is not how you get into heaven, that would imply Keanu just needs to go to confession.
Yes.
He just needs to walk into a church and ask for absolution from a priest for this sin. Which apparently he never does?
Right.
Why is he? Is he too proud?
Huh. Good point.
Instead, he just wants to kill demons.
Big loophole there. He could just, sort this out. Okay. So...
Where are we?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
He's just seen...
Oh, yeah. So Angela's there talking to the priest about Isabel, her sister.
For some reason, it's really important that Isabel gets a Catholic funeral.
Yes.
Because she was a devout Catholic, and that's really important to Angela all of a sudden.
But she's believed to be suicidal. And Angela's really adamant that there's no way she would have killed herself. Right. Absolutely no way she would have done that.
Yep.
I don't think the movie... You think there's going to be proof that she didn't, but I don't think the movie actually proves that she didn't kill herself. I think the movie actually
shows
that she did kill
herself. I've got my list of questions.
Yep, okay.
I've got about 10 of them, and my very first question is, why did Isabel kill herself?
Yes. Great question.
It's never answered.
No, but she's got the sigil on her arm. That means something somewhere to someone.
What did it mean? Why does Isabel need to... Why do we need a twin? Why do we need this character? We don't, because nothing happens with her.
Yeah, yes. I'm really struggling to tease apart this movie and figure out what's going on. In any scene, any line of dialogue, I was like, what?
Her death doesn't... I guess she and Keanu meet because of her death. And at the very end of the film, it's implied... Keanu Constantine has a couple of lines about he now believes in God's plan for him.
Okay.
With the sort of implication that maybe the heaven, i.e. the Christian God, was pulling strings throughout the movie, like making them run into one another at the hospital, making them run into one another at the church/library. That would mean, unfortunately, that maybe God killed Isabel so that Keanu and Rachel Weisz could meet.
Sure.
That's not a really great message.
Yep. Okay, so meanwhile, our overweight priest is...
He's called Hennessy, and he's an alcoholic.
And he's running his hands over newspapers, and somehow, like Daredevil, like reading newspapers by feeling them. He's like getting psychic readings.
Well, he's got psychometry. He drinks to drown out... He's got the sight like Keanu, except this one works by touching stuff.
Okay.
He drinks to drown out the voices.
Okay.
But he also wore that amulet to drown out the voices, I think.
Oh.
But now Keanu's taken his amulet away.
Wait, if Keanu knew that, why did he take the amulet away?
Yeah, why? Because he never uses it. He just says he needs it and takes it.
Does he know this guy's going to suffer if he takes it? I guess that's a Constantine move.
It would be, except the trouble is it's never followed up on, because Constantine never does anything with the amulet.
Right.
Or the amulet might protect you from half-breeds.
Yeah, because he gives it to Rachel later, Angela, to protect herself.
It might protect you from demonic influence. But either way, it ends up getting...
So it suppresses voices, psychic voices, and protects you from demons.
Okay, probably just does the one. It probably just protects you from demons, and he drinks to drown out the voices.
Okay.
Alright, so he finds out about this...
He finds out about
Isabel's
suicide. Somehow he thinks this is a mystical one, I guess, from his psychic readings of it. Meanwhile, Angela goes and watches... They have surveillance camera footage of Isabel's suicide, jumping off the roof.
Yeah.
And it's from like different angles and stuff. It's pretty good.
There's a lot of surveillance
pretty
up there
good
on the roof.
Surveillance footage on the roof of a hospital. Okay, but in that video, Isabel turns to the camera and says, Angela, and then throws herself off the roof. And then Angela says, Constantine. Why? Did I miss something?
I thought it was Isabel that said Constantine.
Oh, Isabel says Constantine.
Into the camera.
Oh,
and then,
okay, my mistake.
And then, but it still doesn't really answer the questions. Why is Isabel saying Constantine? Oh, you know what? Oh, I hate it that this might be right. But later on, he sees her killing herself in hell.
So you think it's a time loop?
Yeah, kind of like a time thing. Because that happens twice in the movie. It happens later on again. You remember in the first scene where nameless Mexican fellow grabs the lance out of the church. He turns around and looks at nothing, and then the scene continues. And then later on, when Keanu is in the chair, it turns out he was reacting to him being there. So there's a time travel element.
Okay,
but it's not really explained.
It's a little bit of cleverness, though. Give it a point for that.
All right.
Okay.
You get a
Time
point.
Looping.
Director, writers of Suburban Commando and Glimmerman.
Yeah. Okay. So she said Constantine, and then and then for some reason when she's watching the video, all the phones start ringing in her house.
Oh yeah.
She has like 20 phones in her house, and they all
Why does she have
start ringing.
so many phones?
I don't know what that was about. Was that her sister's ghost trying to phone her, or
I don't know.
It's like poltergeist activity. Don't know why it's happening.
Poltergeists aren't. We don't see any other poltergeists though.
Nope. So meanwhile, Keanu is out on the street, and then this crab walks on his foot, and then it turns into a big bug monster with one crab in it. It's a giant bug. It's a monster of all that. It's like a horde of bugs that form this big monster, but there's one crab.
It's bugs, snakes, and one crab. That's all they could afford.
Weird,
Crab's
very
expensive,
weird,
man.
very weird. So he's attacked by this demon. He decides he needs to go see Papa Midnight.
Yep.
Chaz knows all about Papa Midnight and wants to get in there to this exclusive club.
But you can't get in unless you have the site.
So he can't get in, but he's like, Chaz seems to be quite knowledgeable about stuff that should be like a bit secret.
He's just read a lot of books, apparently.
Yeah. So
now Chaz vanishes.
Okay, Papa Midnight is played by Djimon Hounsou. He's gonna be an all-star at some stage.
I don't actually think he is.
100% he is.
Oh?
Yep, 100%. Because he's in Renegade, based on the Mobius Blueberry comics, and he is in The King's Man.
So he is!
Yes. Besides being in both Captain Marvel movies, the DC Shazam Captain Marvel movie and the Marvel Captain Marvel movie.
Yeah, wild.
Yeah.
He's in both Marvel.
He's in both Captain Marvels.
Both Captain Marvel movies, yeah.
Yes.
That's great. You're right, I completely forgot about Renegade.
Yeah. He is not as scary as he is described in the comic. He's not a Baron Samedi type, but
No.
Djimon Hounsou, he's a cool ass dude, whatever he shows up in.
Yeah, he's really cool in this.
Yeah.
Actually, and I read interviews with him, and it was a role he really enjoyed playing.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, he had a lot of people. The people that worked on this film enjoyed it. Keanu Reeves has said apparently that this is one of his favourite roles he ever did, and he wants it to be in a sequel.
Right. Interesting.
Which is crazy. And yeah, there's interviews with him where he's just said, "Oh yeah, it was really great for me to play this character because I feel like I'm in touch with my roots from he's from somewhere in Africa."
Oh right, yes.
And he's actually directed a film about the native religion he's from Djibouti or somewhere like that. The native religion in his country. He's actually directed a movie about it. So it's something he's passionate about, and he's able to bring some of that to performance. It's a good performance.
Yep. And for some reason, Keanu wants to use the chair.
The chair.
Why does he want to use it? We don't even know what the chair is at this stage. Later on, we learn that he can, have psychometry.
He wants to know why demons are out and about when they shouldn't be.
Oh, I see. Okay. Meanwhile, there's a demon or half-breed hanging out in Papa Midnight's place named Balthazar, played by Gavin Rossdale. I guess trying to be an actor at this stage in his career.
He's the lead singer of Bush, is it?
Yes.
And he's done a couple of film roles.
Yes, he certainly has. I guess, but I don't know if he did a lot. I think it was around this
just
time,
a couple.
maybe.
But he's okay in this.
Yes, I think he's good in this, actually. I'm going to say he's pretty good.
He's quite handsome.
He's very handsome, playing this snobbish demon or arrogant.
Some of his lines aren't great, though.
No, of course, the lines aren't great, but
unfortunately, they have him say finger licking good, like he's like he's Billy Paxton or something. And
yes. Sure, we can say that about him, but every line Keanu delivers, which is supposed to be a sarcastic Constantine line.
Can't do it.
It's really
so wooden. It's just Keanu.
Wooden.
I like everybody. I think Keanu Reeves is fantastic.
Of course, we love Keanu. Everybody loves him.
Everybody loves Keanu, but this role is not for him.
That's right. He's got to be in the right role, and he's struggling here.
Yeah, big time.
Gavin is doing a good job, but the lines aren't good.
Unfortunately.
Okay, so now Angela comes to John Constantine at his apartment.
Yeah.
She knows, the cops know about John Constantine.
Yep.
She knows who he is, so I guess when she ran into him in the elevator, she knew, oh, it's that supernatural guy that the cops we hate down at the precinct.
Yep.
Or whatever.
That's so funny. Yeah, go on. Yep.
Then she tells him, my sister killed herself yesterday. So only one night has passed, or one day. All this stuff has happened. The visit to the church.
Yep.
All the other things. All these going back and forth here, there.
It's the same. Well,
it's all the same day.
The sun hasn't come up yet, so I guess it's all the same night.
Could be.
Yeah, he doesn't want anything to do with her because Constantine's a jerk, I guess. And she leaves, but then he chases her down
Yes.
for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't really know why. Have you got it in your notes?
No, but this is when we learn about the God versus devil.
Yep.
Some of that stuff is revealed in this moment.
Yep.
Then they're attacked by
Demons.
winged demons.
That shouldn't be there. Yep.
By the way, after this demon fight, they kill it somehow or whatever.
He's got a relic of some sort.
Yeah.
That he sets on fire, and it flares like a magnesium torch.
Yes,
and
that's right.
It blasts it's like the Shroud of Turin. He's got a bit of the Shroud of Turin somehow illegally,
Right.
through B-Man. I thought maybe it's the Shroud of Turin or something.
Yeah.
So he sets it on fire, and it's like he can use it to just blast them into nothing.
Right. Okay. At the end of the scene, there is a Luton bus. Do you know what the Luton bus is?
No.
Val Luton was the director of Cat People from 1934.
Yeah. Okay.
And he invented the false jump scare. There's a scene where the girl is walking down an alley and suddenly hears noise, rah! And then it's a bus that drives past her. It's not scary cat creature.
Yeah.
It's just a bus.
Yeah.
After this, the director's Val Luton, this became known as the Luton bus.
Excellent.
So whenever you get a false jump scare, like in a slasher movie when they open the cupboard and the cat jumps out, that's a Luton bus.
Ah, great.
This movie has a literal bus. At the end of the scene, it's quiet, they just had the demon attack, and then the bus drives past them. I could not believe it.
Cool.
I almost lost my mind.
That's
okay. Now, despite this, Angela is still skeptical about the existence of demons.
Despite seeing demons.
She has seen demons since she was a child, we learn later.
Yep.
She's fought this demon that appeared in the open, and she's like, I don't believe in that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hilarious.
Constantine's like, well, your sister must be in hell because she killed herself. And then she's like, there's no way she would have killed herself.
And he goes, well, then I'll go and see if she's
I'll go down to hell and check.
I'll just go down and check.
He'll just go down and check. So his ritual is he puts his feet in water.
Yep.
He has to hold her cat for some reason. I don't know why that was necessary.
He needs something of hers as a...
Oh, was Isabel's cat?
It is Isabel's cat.
I see. Okay.
It's called Duck.
Duck, yes.
Which...
There's some cutie stuff here where they're trying to build a romance between Rachel and Keanu. It's not happening.
No.
Not happening.
No, sorry. It's not happening at all. He puts his feet in the water and he holds the cat. And then he just straight up goes to hell.
He appears in hell. Yes, it's that easy. Somehow he's got his shoes on in his hell version, but he had his shoes off.
No, he was wearing the shoes.
Was he?
He was. He put his whole ass shoes in the water.
Okay, so
it's later on. It's when he's in the chair that he takes his shoes off.
Okay.
Because he needs to conduct.
So he goes down to hell. It looks very much like the hell from Spawn.
Right. It's sort of where he is, but a blasted.
Yes, it's L.A., but it's like burnt. It's like
Holocaust version.
Holocaust. Yes,
the
it's like
director said they
apocalypse
thought it was like, what if when a nuclear bomb goes off?
Yeah.
In Terminator 2, but it's just going off all the time.
Yes. But like in the subways, there's all these people scrabbling around, like the souls of hell.
Yeah.
And there are these demon, like monster-y demon things that are like chase him above ground.
Yep. They sort of have half a head, and they're spindly. They don't look too bad. CGI's alright.
I don't know. I think you're more forgiving of CGI than I am.
Okay,
typically.
that's fair enough. Well, I was watching it on my laptop.
Right. Oh, maybe it was better on your laptop. I chose the biggest screen in the house to watch this movie on, and they looked like CG demons.
Oh, for sure, they look like CG demons. Oh yeah.
There's a chase. He finds Isabel down there in hell.
She's reenacting the moment of her suicide.
Right.
And that's when she turns to him and says, Constantine.
Yes.
Which maybe that's why
Yes.
Angela could see it in the tape. Doesn't explain how she knows who Constantine is.
Yes, or how she knew which camera to look into.
Yeah. She rips off her
her hospital band,
tag around her wrist. She lets it go. Keanu sort of has to jump into the air and grab it, and at the same time he breaks one of his holy water ampules on his chest, which brings him back to the real world.
So does this mean that Isabel did kill herself?
Yes.
Okay.
Because she's in hell.
So you really think the movie's...
Except...
You think that movie's going to prove that she didn't, and Angie is right?
Yeah,
you think that Angie's going to be vindicated, but she's not.
You're right. If she killed herself, and presumably people have free will in this universe, in that case, why? Why did she commit suicide?
Yeah.
Why? And it's what kicks off the plot too.
Yes, and also why? Yes, very much why, because Angie is convinced that she would never do it. These two are twins that think alike, all this sort of stuff, blah, blah, blah.
And then why does she have...
Then it must have been something really important that made her kill herself.
And why does she have the sigil of Mammon on her...
Yeah.
On her arm?
Yeah.
Which the guy holding the lance also has.
Yeah.
Why? Is it implying that Mammon made her jump off? If he made her jump off, she's not a suicide then. And then she wouldn't have gone to hell. Is she trying to kill herself to deny... We later find out that the plan is that Mammon needs a powerful psychic to inhabit.
Yeah. Maybe she killed herself so that he couldn't use her.
Yeah, maybe, except then that was pretty dumb because she has a sister that is exactly the same as her in every way.
She should have thought of that before killing herself.
Of course, it's never explained. We're just guessing.
Yeah. Okay, so meanwhile, our priest, what did you say, Hennessy?
Yeah.
Hennessy shows up at the morgue to look at Isabel's body.
Why?
Why?
He's doing his thing, his psychometry.
Yeah, but why? What's he hoping to get at? Is he looking for another case to give to Constantine? Which seems to be what he does, is find cases for Constantine to investigate?
He's just like part of Constantine's crew that just... Except instead of preventing the apocalypse, they just touch bodies.
Okay, well, he gets the sigil as well, I think, at this point. Or
no, he doesn't. He sees it when he touches her.
Oh, okay.
He sees it on her... I think he sees it on her body.
Okay.
Then unfortunately, he's really struggling with the voices. They're getting louder and louder. A security guard comes in. He flees.
Yeah.
The voices get so loud. And then we get a kind of cool scene where he tries to drink alcohol.
He actually did it in the morgue first because he had a flask.
Oh, yeah.
He was trying to drink out of it, and nothing would come out of the flask.
No.
But when the security guard comes in after he's left, we see that the floor is like all wet.
Yeah.
Like all the stuff spilled out
and
of it.
I was like, what the heck? I said, what kind of continuity error is this?
I thought he wet himself.
Right. I knew it was the booze, and I thought it was a continuity error.
Right.
Then he
goes to like a convenience store.
This is a cool scene, actually. He's sort of like opening bottles and pouring them into his mouth, and nothing's coming out.
Yeah.
And then he starts knocking the tops off like spirits and holding them over his head, and they're empty.
But when he throws them down, you see they spill out. Like
and we can see them full of liquid too.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat. It turns out it's the baleful influence of Balthazar, who has tracked him down and is killing him for some reason.
Are we ever told that reason?
Nope.
Okay. So this was Balthazar. It wasn't the sigil doing this to him or the body. It's Balthazar deliberately making this priest
kill himself.
It's
originally he was supposed to eat himself to death.
Okay.
Just like the victims of Nemeth in that first issue of Hellblazer.
Yeah.
But then they correctly, I think, decided to do it with the alcohol because the alcohol is his.
Right, and he's like leaking, like fluid starts coming out of him. Like
that's
he's like
because he's been drinking it all this time.
Oh, right.
He's drowned himself with his with his escape.
Right.
Yeah, because that's all the alcohol bubbling out of him at the end.
And then I wrote out like all my notes. I don't understand my own notes. Stab himself? Did he stab himself?
He did. He used a corkscrew.
Oh, that's right.
To carve the sigil.
That's what happened.
Into his palm.
Okay.
Why didn't you just carve it into the linoleum? He was lying on the floor.
He wanted it on himself for some reason?
Well, he knew that John would come.
Oh, he wants John to see the sigil.
Yes. Although, there's no guarantee John would come.
Why am I struggling so much to figure this out?
Because it doesn't make sense. Why would John show up and look at his body? The only reason John sees his body is because Angela takes him there later when they're hanging out together.
Yes, and Angela lets him handle the corpse.
Yeah, that was weird.
This is a crime scene.
Yeah.
The other cop is there. She's there. John Constantine comes up and starts handling this corpse and looking at the mark on his...
Good work, guy. You've just completely tampered with a crime scene.
You've contaminated this crime scene. Unbelievable.
Yeah, but it's okay because she says, he's all right.
Yes, she does say he's all right to the other cop, and the CSIs are not like, get this guy out of here. And he's like, okay, cool. And by the way, everybody knows about Constantine down at the precinct. They're suspicious of
Yeah,
this
they
guy.
know that he's sus.
Okay. Okay, now, finally, we go to I think this is where we go to this is before they arrive at the crime scene. They're at its, like, a food stall, a food truck, and John explains his backstory. He was able to see ghosts as a kid. It drove him a bit crazy. His parents tried to, like, give him, like, electroshock and stuff to cure him of this. He eventually tried to kill himself as a youth.
Well, he succeeded.
And he was dead for 2 minutes.
But we've seen, because his trip to hell was only a fraction of a second, it's done quite well. I mean, the cinematography is not too bad. I mean, it's quite workmanlike. The plot is a complete mess, but the cinematography is pretty good. And how they do it is, Keanu asks, this is the earlier scene, asks Angela to leave the room. She does, and right as she shuts the door, right before she shuts the door, he goes to hell, before she shuts the door. Like, there's an inch between the door and the jam. She then, when he comes back to the mortal plane, the door clicks shut. So even though he was running around in hell, investigating, experiencing stuff, up in the real world it was less than a second.
Yes.
And then we find out that he was like physically dead or clinically dead for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And he said, time doesn't work the same in hell. I was in hell in 2 minutes is like a really, really long time. Yeah. So he suffered a lot in hell. And
I would say that's lifted from Swamp Thing. There's a very famous bit in Swamp Thing where they kill the villain Anton Arcane, and his soul ends up in hell. Swamp Thing has to follow him down hell because his love, Abby Arcane, has gone to hell as well.
Yep.
And then he meets Arcane down there, and Arcane says, how many years have I been down here?
And Swamp Thing says, since yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I burned into my mind, that line. It's one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, very much so.
So that's a little touch of it there. I think that's...
And done through, in that earlier scene, through visual storytelling, but not through, obviously, the later one where Keanu says, 2 minutes in hell is a really long time.
Yes. Yeah, they really have to tell you so you understand. Now here we get to talk about the half-breeds. There's a balance. He accuses heaven and hell of hypocritical bullshit, and he says they break the rules, and when they break the rules, he has to deport them.
Yep, that's what he says.
So I have to assume, because he says hypocritical bullshit, breaking the rules, deporting, that it is angels and demons, you would think, but then the way he talked to Gabriel, it sounds like he's only been killing demons, not angels, because that would prevent him from getting to heaven if he was sending...
The trouble here is we're getting two different explanations for his actions. On the one hand, he's trying to buy his way into heaven by exorcising demons. But on the other hand, he's claiming he's an envoy of balance.
Yeah. And
he hates both sides equally, and he just punishes the ones that act like hypocrites and step outside the rules in the more... So those two things are not reconcilable.
Right.
Which one's true? Yeah. They can't both be true.
Yeah.
Because heaven's not going to let him in if he's deporting angels.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This is my thing with it.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't make sense. So I assume that that one about him being the envoy of balance is not true, and actually it's just him deporting demons. And you know what? It would make sense that hell are the only ones that break the rules, or are they? Dun, 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 dun.
Yes. Right. Right. Okay. Okay. I think it's B-Man now finds out through his research scene.
The sigil. He asks B-Man about the sigil, and the sigil decides to look it up in the real Bible, which has like 10 extra chapters.
Yes.
and
it exists in hell.
It's the hell. So the real Bible's in hell?
Yes.
And the fake Bible's on earth?
Oh, the partial Bible's on earth.
So we only get half a Bible?
All the Apocrypha is in hell.
And in this hell Bible, there's a really, really specific prophecy.
Yes, based on the sigil alone. All you need is this one sigil. You can unlock all this information.
Well, it's all there. So this prophecy, though, I mean, it's really explicit. The prophecy specifically says, Satan's son, Mammon, is going to come to earth and set up his own kingdom of hell on earth, in spite of his father. And in order to do that, he needs a help from an angel. It basically just says that.
Yeah.
And then there's even a picture in the Bible of an angel holding the spear. The spear of Longinus.
So the spear is needed to... What do they need the spear for?
I think it's so funny, given that the spear gets that prominent title card at the start, it has nothing to do with anything.
It's a real MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Like, you could replace it with anything.
You absolutely could.
Almost.
The spear is what's allowing, presumably, the demons to cross into the mortal world.
Okay. Wait a second. Hold on.
Yep.
The spear existed in the mortal world.
Yes, it did.
It was under the church in Mexico.
It was.
So these demons could have just come along. It was there.
Yes,
it wasn't like it wasn't in another dimension or something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Why is it when a Mexican guy picks it up now, it's having its desired effect? And why would is that Mexican guy an acolyte of Mammon's? No, because the sigil only appears on him after he picks up the spear. None of it makes sense.
Yeah. I don't get it. Okay.
It says Mammon has found the spear, except Mammon doesn't find the spear.
Okay, and also, why would it be defying his father if Mammon took over the earth?
Because Lucifer wants the earth. He doesn't
want his son to do it.
Even though there's a prophecy that says his son's going to do it.
Is it an if prophecy, a conditional, that if you get the spear, then the son will take over the earth, or is it flat out this is going to happen?
Oh, right.
It has to be if, because it stopped at the end of the movie. Spoiler.
Yeah, good point. Of course, there are probably if prophecies.
Right.
In this world. It's just funny how really, really explicit it is. Prophecies aren't usually this explicit.
Based on those single...
It's sort of like a step-by-step... This is what you got to do. Follow
there's no interpretation
and it'll
involved.
be the apocalypse.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
So, by the way, Beeman lives in a bowling alley.
Yeah, okay.
Apparently, or he works there. He's working where, in the back where the pins are being replaced.
Yeah.
By the way, these machines are constantly going. Or, they turn on by...
They turn on by themselves.
Right. But you're like, where is this guy?
The bowling alley is closed at the moment. He lives at the back of a bowling alley. Or does he? Because there's nowhere to live. There's nowhere to sleep back there.
Nope.
He's back there with all his paraphernalia. It's like a man cave with all his...
it's like a workshop. It's where he's building his
gadgets.
Chris Christopherson gadgets, yeah.
Yep. But here's the thing. Keanu Reeves seems to live above the bowling alley.
Based on what? What makes you think that?
Because
was there a shot in there or something?
Later on, when they leave his house, they go through the bowling alley.
Holy shit! Oh no! Oh, wait a second.
They do.
Wait a second. Okay, so when they go, he goes in there with Rachel and he submerges her in a bath so she can go to hell.
Yeah.
That bath is in the bowling alley, isn't it?
I think it's
because after they leave the bath, they walk out through the bowling alley.
Yeah, but that's because he lives in the bowling alley.
So that was his bath.
I think so. Yes.
Holy shit!
Yeah, no, it's not. Why does he live above the bowling alley? And why does his gopher...
Beeman lives...
Why does he live beneath him in, the basement behind the pins? Why can't he live up in the...
Maybe he does... Maybe just that's his workshop and he actually has an apartment upstairs.
He has one nearby.
I don't understand. Okay. I was like, why does bowling alley have a bath in it? Because they don't show them walking out through his apartment or...
No, they show him walking out through the bowling alley. Because he lives above it. I'm pretty sure that's why.
Okay, so he has to... So he's going to send her to hell to see Isabel, I guess, to prove that Isabel's down?
No, he's already done that. He did
that, but why does Angela have to go see hell?
Is that what she wants?
I don't know. She's revealed at this stage. She tells him that I had visions as a child too, but I didn't tell people about it.
Yeah.
And my sister was institutionalized.
Well, maybe that's why her sister killed herself, because she didn't know her sister had... I know she could. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Sorry. So it turns out she has the gift as well, but she's suppressed it, and it's not working. So Keanu has to... Why does she want it back?
I don't know if she wants... I think she has to go to hell because she comes out of it, she's like, oh my god, I saw hell, I saw all those people or whatever.
She wants to reawaken her gift. She asks Keanu for help with it.
So maybe she has to go to hell to awaken the gift.
No, well, she just has to be submerged in water. He has to...
But she did see hell when she was down
there. Because her gift reawakened. And then she could just see all the stuff,
so she didn't see hell, she just saw ghosts that are around her bathtub?
Well, she probably did see hell, because she said she's a powerful, whatever it is, seer?
Okay, so we're...
I forget why she wanted it, though.
So she's lost the ability to see.
Yep, she's suppressed it.
She wants to get it back.
Yes.
He submerges her completely in the bathroom. In fact, holds her down until she's almost drowning.
Yep.
By the way, great underwater performing from Rachel Weisz in this.
Very good.
Looks very terrified.
Yep.
He holds her underwater. She kind of semi-drowns,
This
maybe.
is kind of thing that Constantine would do to someone.
Yes.
Except he would be like hysterical himself.
Right.
He would not look like a robot.
Yeah. She pops up and she's like, oh my god, I saw all that stuff.
Yes, yeah, because her gifts reawaken. That's how we know.
So, but you're saying her gift reawakened, and what did she see ghosts that were around the bathtub, or did she go into hell and see what hell looked like?
I don't think it matters, but my impression is her gift is sufficiently powerful that she could just see into hell, even though she wasn't there.
But Keanu has to put his feet in water to go see
His
hell.
talent isn't as strong as hers.
Oh. So she
And
can
besides,
just
it was a big flash when it reawakened.
So she can just focus
Maybe.
and have a vision of hell.
Perhaps or perhaps not. I mean, it was just her talent just burst back into life after years of suppressing it, and then she could see all the way into hell. I don't think it really matters. I hate that I'm spending time headcanoning this.
I'm trying to figure it out.
I think the takeaway is her gift is back.
Okay. They go through the bowling alley to that back part, and they see that B-Man is dead.
Yeah.
He's been killed by these flies.
Yeah.
These bugs. And
Balthazar killed him.
Yes. Why Balthazar kill that guy?
Because he was telling Keanu about the prophecy.
Okay, why not kill Keanu?
Yeah.
Why kill the priest and...
It's later implied that Balthazar is shepherding them to bring Angela... It doesn't make sense why he's killing them. So now that she has her powers back, she can find Balthazar.
Okay.
And they want to get him because he killed B-Man and Hennessy.
Okay. And John builds this gun.
Yeah.
Which is like...
It's like he just picks up all the bits that are lying around.
B-Man was a specialist, I believe, at this stuff. Constantine just picks it up and assembles it like Lego.
That's exactly what it's like. And it's sort of a gold crucifix gun with a drum magazine that shoots fire.
It looks like a weapon from Bayonetta. It's the weirdest... Yeah, it's gold. As you said, it's gold. It's like in the shape of a cross. It is a Hellboy weapon. It is not a John Constantine Hellblazer
comparison.
weapon.
It is a Hellboy weapon.
It belongs in Hellboy. It does not belong in the world of John Constantine. As far as I'm concerned, the Constantine in my head would not be running around with this
use guns.
thing like this.
He never uses guns. He hates them, in fact.
Yeah. Somehow they find Balthazar.
She finds him with, according to the plot synopsis, she uses her abilities to find him.
But where was he? He's in some office building or something.
Yeah, he is, in some office building. He's running a coin... That's it, he's in some office building. He's running a coin across his knuckles.
Okay.
A trick which apparently he learned to do over many months so that he could... That's him doing it on screen. Okay. Which is pretty cool.
Well, she does it too. Later.
Yeah, she does actually. I wonder if she practiced for many months.
Unless her hand was below her elbow was below the frame, and another hand was doing it.
Possibly.
Which sometimes they do.
Likely, but no, it's the real deal with Balthazar's actor.
Okay, Gavin.
Good
old Gavin Rossdale. Okay, John Constantine fights him. I guess he's got magic brass knuckles of some sort.
Yep.
Which he uses to beat him up with.
Yep.
And he turns into this kind of demonic thing. He's revealed in this moment, but after the fight, Angela is sucked out through the building like she's been punched by a superhero. She just flies through all the walls and flies off into space, and we don't see her for a while.
No. Well, she has to go all the way to the hospital, so that takes a bit, I guess.
I guess it takes
Might be on the other side of town.
Hours based on what happens, what follows.
Incidentally, he tricks Balthazar into telling him something. He needs Balthazar to tell him something.
Oh.
I can't even remember what it was, so it can't be that important.
No, I can't.
But how he tricks it tries to do like a Constantine-style con, because he tries
Yes, you're right, yes.
He tries to trick Balthazar into thinking he's going to grant him absolution for his sins and send him to heaven.
Yeah.
Now, on paper, this is fine, I guess. But actually, it doesn't really make sense. A guy that moves around in the world of sin, is going to know that you can't just be arbitrarily forgiven for sins unless you seek repentance.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Also, if Constantine... I couldn't help but thinking, if Constantine... You're trying to trick this demon into thinking you're going to send him to heaven, yet you yourself can't get into heaven, and everybody knows it, and you just kill demons all day long. This guy's never going to fall for this. Sorry, it does not make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. But they were trying to be clever.
Yeah, it doesn't work though. So he needs to find Rachel.
Yes, so he goes back to Papa Midnight.
Rachel Weisz. Yeah.
Yes, he is allowed to use the chair. Finally, it is the chair that we saw in the first issue of the comic or the second issue.
It's even from Sing Sing as well.
It's from Sing Sing. It's only killed 200 people though, not 300 in this version. For some reason, they were like, "That's too much."
They're going for that PG-13 rating.
Yeah,
That's the difference.
They knocked it down from 300 to 200. He has visions of what happened in Mexico, as you pointed out. There is a time loop there. And now Shia shows up to make magic bullets.
Yep.
He makes magic holy bullets. He's like pressing them in this bullet making machine, which Papa Midnight has hanging around.
Yep.
I guess he's learned how to do this from reading his books. He knows about magic stuff.
He impresses Papa Midnight with his knowledge, his book knowledge.
Yes.
Turns out Papa Midnight has, among all of his arcane junk that he has lying around his bar, turns out he has one of only 2 crosses in history that a layperson can use to make holy water.
Ah. Oh, okay, right, that's right. Yes.
So that was lucky. So they take that cross and they go to the building where she's being held, which turns out is the hospital, because there's only 3 sets in this movie. She's back in the hospital where Isabel killed herself. In fact, she's in the pool that Isabel drowned in.
Yeah, she falls into that pool. She flies across town like goddamn Tetsuo, and then ends up falling into that same pool. How long was she flying through the air? Because during that time, John Constantine took the taxi to Papa Midnight, convinced him to use a chair, had the vision of his chair. They built all the bullets.
Yeah.
They make bullets. I don't know how long does it take to make a bullet.
Takes a while.
Takes a while. She finally falls into this pool. I had actually forgotten. And when she went in the pool, I was like, wait, where was that character last time we saw her? I was trying to remember. I could not remember that she'd been blasted out through the wall. Oh my god. Okay, so now John Constantine shows up at the hospital.
Yeah. It's defended by demon half-breeds.
I got a question about this. Why are there so many demon half-breeds in this hospital? Was this everybody that was in the hospital? Are they all half-breeds, or did they gather here?
They're the defenders.
So they've come to the hospital.
Yes. Yeah.
To defend
Rachel and from anyone that wants to take her away.
Okay. So they put holy water into the sprinkler. Shia has done this.
It's an okay scene where Shia finds the reservoir for the sprinkler system.
Yeah.
He blows the top of it off with a shotgun, and he puts the cross in. It looks for a second like it's not going to go in.
Yeah.
But then he just shoves it in it drops, and he blesses the water with it.
Yes.
Because it's one of the magic crosses. Then Constantine gives a little speech, something about, like, leave or I'm going to kill you all.
Yes.
They don't leave. He gets out his lighter, he sets off the sprinkler system, the holy water comes down and starts burning the half-breeds, but it has no other effect.
Yes, it doesn't... Okay.
They don't all melt, they just get...
It just exposes them.
They just get angry. Yeah, I suppose maybe it weakens them, makes it easier to kill.
But I have to say, this reminded me of Blade showing up at that club.
Yep.
And also the sprinklers did remind me of the blood. It's not helping, it's damaging to them, but it did remind me of that.
Yes, it is like that. So we've got another part of this. I see this film very much in the continuum of Blade, Matrix, Ultraviolet.
Yeah.
Like this continuity of films that are about, as we discussed in the Blade movie, like a secret underground world, mostly set at night time.
Yes. So also the other thing about the Blade thing about this is he starts blowing away these things and they turn to dust.
Yep.
When he uses his magic gun, just like in Blade when he kills a vampire.
It's so much like Blade.
It looks like a video game. The CG looks pretty cheap on this. I feel like Blade looked much better.
I was checked out of this scene. I mean, Keanu can do action, but this is long before John Wick, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Incidentally, we get a close-up of one of the half-breed demons that gets a line, like a woman. Mm-hmm. She says, "Holy water?" ? As it starts to burn her. This is an actor called Michelle Monaghan.
Oh, from the Mission Impossible movies?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And she was cut. She has a role in the movie.
Whoa.
Ellie the Succubus.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Holy cow. That is interesting.
Yep. She had a couple of scenes, apparently.
Wow.
And that's why it's That's why she gets that
I
close
was
up.
about to say, if she was in those Mission Impossible movies around the same time, why would she have one line in this random movie?
That's why. I've got a quote from the director, Francis Lawrence. They asked him, this is from an interview in 2005, they asked him, why did you cut Michelle Monaghan from the movie? You know what? Michelle was fantastic, and one of the scenes we had to cut was one of my favourite scenes we shot in the movie. We cut it because it took away from Constantine's loneliness.
Oh.
We have two characters that are very lonely, and there's a sort of feeling of abandonment in this movie that's very important. It helped connect the two main characters. And you know, if he has a scene, which the first scene with her is post-sex, he's sitting on the edge of the bed, he's obviously just slept with her. She's very attractive, demon or not. You're just not that lonely of a guy if you can go and hook up with girls like this.
Okay, fair enough. But that is a bummer.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so now Constantine finds Angela. She's in the pool with the Mexican guy. So that guy walked up to L.A.
Yep.
Literally one day.
He sure did.
Or less than a day.
Sure did. Is he possessed by... Because he seems to now pass Mammon to her. So was Mammon possessing him?
Yeah, she's possessed now. She
Maybe
has to
that's the
fight
deal.
Constantine in the
Maybe
pool.
that's why Mammon has the power of the... Maybe. Maybe that's why he had the sigil.
No.
But then why did Isabel have the sigil?
Yep.
None of it's explained.
Yep.
It's hopeless.
Okay, so now they need to do an exorcism on Angela.
This one's way easier than the one they did on the lesser demon earlier in the film.
Yes.
They just kind of hold her down and say...
Well, Chaz shows up. Chaz, the taxi driver, shows up and is able to perform this exorcism.
Yeah, he does it.
Because he practices.
But they just do it by...
But he dies.
They just do it by chanting in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit
Yep.
over and over in Latin.
Yep.
Is that all you need to do an exorcism?
Yes.
Oh, and they lay on hands. They lay on hands and they just say... In nomine Patri Filii Spiritus Sancti, over and over and over.
Yeah.
That's a lot less elaborate than getting the mirror
and
the
throwing it out the
medallion.
window, yes.
It's very disappointing. Very disappointing.
Yes. And Chaz is killed in this process.
Yeah.
A bit
Chaz
like
tries
Father
to
Karras.
deliver the line. He tries to say, I'm Chaz, Kroger, asshole.
Yes.
And then he's killed by something. It's not Mammon. There's something in the room with them.
Right.
Instead of killing Keanu, it just leaves him alone.
Yeah, and then Keanu says, show yourself!
Yep, he strips himself to his shirt sleeve. He pulls up his shirt sleeves to reveal these tattoos that we could sort of see the whole movie. He puts his
like his forearms
together and it forms a magic. It looks like the symbol of the Deathly Hallows from Harry
Right.
Potter. Some kind of occult symbol, and he uses it to try and bring whatever's in the room. Everyone who have watched this film will have figured out, it's Gabriel.
Yes.
Gabriel is the one that's been helping Mammon. It's his heavenly contact that's needed to help bring about the apocalypse. Tilda, now the film finally gets good for me. Everything from here on till the end of the movie, I really like.
Well, Tilda's undeniable. I've spoken about her previously on the podcast. I mean, she's gold. In whatever she's in.
This, I think, when I think of Tilda Swinton, I often think of this role.
Right.
And I think of what she's wearing in this scene.
Yeah.
Which is some kind of... The costume department had a lot of fun with this. She's wearing some kind of wild, straitjacket, hospital gown-esque outfit.
Yeah.
And on her forearms, she's wearing hospital tags, like patient tags.
Yeah.
She's wearing it like about 6 or 7 of them, and
maybe she's killed hundreds of hospital patients.
But they have labels on them that like they're like sins. They say like anger, pride, things like that. Some creative person had a lot of fun with Tilda Swinton's outfit, and I tip my hat to them in this otherwise creatively sterile film. Someone went to town and made Tilda Swinton look fucking incredible in this scene.
Yeah.
Anyway, she descends down, wings out. She's like steps on his neck.
Yeah.
She's completely in control of the situation. She tells him off. Tells him that, you know, like he and all human beings have this gift, the free will, I suppose, which angels don't have, and the potential for redemption. And she's just completely contemptuous of humanity, and she's decided that what they really need is a good kicking from Mammon, so that they'll truly be, you know, worthy in the eyes of the Lord. Then she blows on him.
Yes.
And he flies away and bangs into a door, and he's out of the fight now.
Yes.
And now...
she's got the blade.
Yeah, she's got along the lance.
And she's going to kill...
Meanwhile, no, she's not going to kill... Now something kind of creepy has happened. Rachel Weisz has Mammon in her uterus.
In her belly. Well, the first girl who was possessed had it... It was popping out of her neck.
Yeah.
The demon was popping out of her neck. And here... But it was there before, and before the exorcism, and then they exorcised her and it seemed to disappear, but now it's come back.
No, it's... Mammon's... It's sort of implied that Mammon maybe is put himself into her as like a baby.
So when they did the exorcism, it was already in there. Like, it was like we had the CG of the thing coming out of her belly, and Keanu was holding it down.
Yeah.
They exorcised her. It stopped.
Yeah.
Now it's come back, but you're saying it's something.
Yeah, I don't.
He never succeeded in get.
I don't know what happened.
Okay.
I don't know why he's back.
Okay.
Maybe he just repossessed her.
Okay.
I don't know. It doesn't. There's some lines earlier in the film where they talk about her having the son or something like it's going to be maybe a bit like Cthulhu in Providence.
Oh, yeah.
But, I don't know. Anyway, but what's straight up happening now is that Gabriel is about to cut her open and let Mammon into the human world.
Okay.
Constantine now gets out a razor blade
Yeah.
and cuts his wrists.
Yes. As he does in Dangerous Habits at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Why is he killing himself?
Yeah.
But we know because we've read Dangerous Habits. But then we had just one line earlier in the film, I think from Papa Midnight, where he said, Keanu was basically complaining that he's going to go to hell. And Papa Midnight's like, oh yeah, I know. Everybody knows. Everybody knows that you're the one guy that Satan himself would come to Earth to collect.
Yeah.
Something, incidentally, that Satan is not allowed to do, according to the bargain that he made with God. But whatever. We've moved way on from that.
Right.
Now Peter Stormare shows up.
Yes.
And stealing the show, the whole movie, as Lucifer.
Yeah.
Wearing like a kind of off-white suit and barefoot with tar dripping off it, which was kind of like in the comic.
Yeah, he kind of descends from the sky in the comic.
He's sort of floating.
He floats down.
He's an emaciated man, looks a little bit like Jesus, but with like black stuff dripping off his feet.
Yeah.
And it's very arresting in the movie, except instead of rags, he's wearing this kind of rad outfit.
Yeah.
He's got like a handkerchief coming out of his lapel. It's all and he's got some like crazy veins coming out the side of his head, and he has some tattoos on his neck. The whole combination is very unsettling. Bare feet, tar, white suit, barely seen tattoos, and of course Peter Stormare absolutely chewing the scenery as Lucifer.
Yeah.
He's thrilled. He's so sleazy and gross and weird. He's lighting Keanu's cigarette for him, but he's moving the flame around so he can't light it. It's just really petty.
Yeah.
Anyway, then Keanu tells him, just before I go, are you curious about where your son is? And like Peter Stormare's like, he's a busy boy. And then he says, well, he's in that next room with Gabriel. This still doesn't faze.
And they have the spear.
Wait, he does reveal that.
Yeah.
Doesn't faze him that he's with Gabriel, and he's just like, no counting for taste, ha ha ha! He says he's got the spear, and then that wipes the smile off Lucifer's face, because he's presumably read the prophecy, the very explicit prophecy in the Hell Bible. And he says, is this one of your cons? And incidentally, Lucifer stopped time to come to Earth.
Yes.
And Keanu says, well, you've waited 20 years for me. Take 20 seconds to look. I'm not going anywhere. So Peter Stormare does. Lucifer walks into the next room, and sure enough, he sees what's going on. Yeah, he quickly, picks up. He sends Mammon back to hell. He blasts the wings off Gabriel, and then he goes around and makes like he's going to drag Keanu down to hell. But first he says, what do you want for this? I presume you want something. Like, what do you want? You want a continuance? You want an extension? He says. Like, in other words, do you want me to fix up your wrists and you can go back to... And Keanu's like, no, that girl, Isabel, I want her. I want you to let her go.
Yeah.
I want you to let her go. And he goes, Satan's like, I don't let people go. So, that's what I want. So he goes, okay, it's done. And you're coming with me. Starts to drag Keanu away, but then Keanu suddenly seems to get really, really heavy.
Yeah, like he's stuck almost.
Yeah. In fact, the floor is buckling underneath him.
Yeah.
And what's happened now is that Keanu has performed an act of self-sacrifice, despite committing suicide, being mortal sin, twice, without absolution. But his act of self-sacrifice in preventing the apocalypse and freeing Isabel from hell means that he is now allowed into heaven. Which sort of means he was right all along. You really can buy your way into heaven.
Yep.
You just have to buy it the right way.
Yep.
And he starts to rise up. And he flips off
Yes.
Peter Stormare. Peter Stormare's apoplectic with rage. He's like, no, this isn't happening. You're not getting away from me. And he rips the cancer out of Keanu's lungs and says, "You're going to live a long life, and you're going to end up with me because you're going to show me exactly who you are. You're a sinner. You're going to end up in hell."
Did Keanu know that the self-sacrifice would summon him to heaven, and therefore he would be safe from the devil, and the devil would cure him of cancer?
I wind it back a step. Did Keanu know that saving Isabel would be enough to redeem him and send him to heaven?
Yeah.
The ending works way better if yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just random luck.
The first time I saw it, I thought it was just random luck. But this time watching it, I think it's better. I want to believe he knew it. I think maybe the flipping off shows that he did know, that it was all just as planned.
Yes, right.
Just according to Keikaku.
Right.
That flipping off, I think, tells us that it was something he cooked up, which I like so much, actually. And I like it even better than Ennis's original version.
Okay.
This version ties up a few loose ends a bit better, I think.
But doesn't it open a loose end in the sense that we have a loophole for getting into heaven that we hadn't heard about before?
What, that you just had to get a sinner, you had to get someone out of hell and into heaven. If you get one
person out of hell for yourself, then you get to go to heaven?
He gambled. Yes. It's if we look really close, it doesn't really make sense, I guess. But he gambled and won.
Yeah.
I like that. I feel like with Ennis's one's fine too, but there's questions there as well. Why did these demons really not have bought Constantine's soul when they knew that Lucifer really wanted it real bad? Would they not have checked that someone else had not already bought his soul? Wouldn't that be standard demonic practice? Why did the first of the fallen has control over the physical shape? Has enough power to heal Constantine? Does he not also have the power to Harlan Ellison him into I have no mouth, and I must scream guy?
Yeah.
Could you turn him into a blob of protoplasm and put him somewhere safe?
Yeah. My thing was, in our human world, if you sign two contracts,
one of them's void.
One of them is void. Like, there are dates on them and stuff that affect which one is valid and which one isn't.
Did he sign them at the same instant?
No, definitely not. We know. There's a whole plot point where he summons one, clears the deck, summons another, so the second one doesn't know that the first one was summoned. Yeah. So
while I do like Dangerous Habits, but I feel like the movie, full credit to the writer of Suburban Commando.
Yeah.
I think the last 15 minutes of this movie are really good.
Yeah.
I really like it. Well, and it gets even better because he quit smoking. The final shot of the scene is him chewing nicotine gum.
Yes, and there's a voiceover for the first time in the movie. We never had a voiceover in the opening scenes. Suddenly we had a Constantine voiceover. Very strange choice to suddenly put that in there.
But the comic's full of it, though.
Yes.
As you pointed out.
Yes, but it's inconsistent. And Angela's in the scene. He could tell her this stuff.
Yeah, why not? There's been plenty of info dumping already.
Very bizarre. Seems like it was an afterthought, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, he gives the spear to Angela. Yeah. For some reason.
Tells her to hide it.
But wait a second. The spear still exists in the world. Isn't that enough for Mammon to get into it?
Yeah, exactly. But, exactly. Exactly.
No, a person doesn't need to have it. It just needs to exist, doesn't it?
I think someone has to have it. I think maybe... No, I don't... No. How the spear works is not explained. It's a big plot hole. We'll just leave it at that.
Okay. So we get credits now based on characters from the Vertigo DC Comics. One of the producers, by the way, is Lauren Shuler Donner. She is the producer of the X-Men movies. She was the spouse of Richard Donner. So this is superhero royalty.
Wow, Richard Donner connection.
She went from Superman movies and X-Men movies. She produced all the X-Men movies.
Wow.
And now she's a producer on this. So this is the zone she was in at the time, I guess. She was looking for these properties to produce. And we get a mid-credits sequence of Constantine visiting Chaz's grave and then leaving his lighter there. Yeah. And then Chaz comes back to life as an angel.
Yeah.
People don't turn into angels.
No. Angels have been around since the beginning. They're...
Again, are we doing this Catholic or are we doing this movie logic?
Why would Chaz become an angel? It doesn't make any sense.
No.
It doesn't make any sense. I thought that scene... I read about that. I didn't watch the mid-credit sequence. I'm not like you. I don't sit through the credits. But I read about that scene online where it's treated as though it were cut.
No, it's there.
Oh, that's
100%
strange.
it's there.
No, obviously it's there because you saw it.
Yeah.
I wonder if they added it back in.
I don't know, but it's really dumb.
It's dumb.
Yeah. It implies that he's going to be hanging around for the sequel as an angel, a helpful angel or something.
That's so stupid.
How did he become an angel?
Right. Now, you haven't read Harry Dresden.
No.
So Harry Dresden is a series of novels
Okay.
by Jim Butcher about a warlock detective
Okay.
who lives in Chicago
Okay.
and works as a private detective. He's in the phone book.
Okay.
A wizard
Okay.
who works a lot with the local police, including a plucky female detective
Okay.
called Murphy. And the police all hate him and don't like him. And it's chock full of noir tropes. He's really, damaged.
Okay.
But chivalrous. And he's tall and dark and handsome. And this film just feels so much like a Harry
Yeah, I'm just
Dresden
looking at it now.
movie.
So first published in 2000.
Yeah.
The first Dresden Files novel.
There's been a TV series made of the Dresden Files.
Okay.
Honestly, this film would work really well. The amount of parallels are crazy. This film would work really well as Dresden Files.
As I discussed with Stephen Bissette, there was, also Clive Barker's Harry D'Amour was the similar type.
Oh, well, I want to talk about this in adaptation, but I just thought I would open a tab.
Okay.
It's a shame if there's any fans of Harry Dresden listening, and I am absolutely not one. It should tickle you that this film is so much like it. Perhaps accidentally, or maybe they ripped it off. Perhaps Jim Butcher has a case.
Huh.
All right, shall I do trivia?
Yeah, trivia. Let's do it.
All right, so this film cost something around $70 to $100 million to make.
Whoa! This does not look like a $100 million movie. It looks cheap.
It does. With the sets, there's so few sets. Some of the sets look good. The bowling alley set looks really good. They spent some money on that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, where's the money going? Keanu's fee, Rachel Weisz's fee.
Yes, that's true.
I suppose the CGI. I know
But
it doesn't
even
look good,
yeah.
but this is 2005. Remember, I guess it's top of the line for 2005.
Okay.
Yeah, but expensive. Made 200.
Why would you give your $100 million movie to a director who's never made a movie before?
Good question.
That is fascinating to me. What's the level of trust there that they were like, yeah, this guy can do it, and not go to somebody who's established, at least made one other movie, at least somebody that hasn't written Suburban Commando to write it, at least. That's crazy to me.
It's like, yeah. Well, sounds like they did the opposite.
Maybe the package was based around Keanu. Keanu came on first.
No, he was last.
Oh, okay.
He came on last.
Right, okay.
Do you know who was on first?
Who? Sting?
No. Oh, if only. Nicolas Cage.
No. Oh my god.
Again.
Yeah. Yeah, again. What a movie that would have been. He could have played Disheveled.
Yeah, he could have done Disheveled. He probably could have done...
Leaving Las Vegas style. He could have easily played it.
He could have done Twitchy and...
Yeah.
Foul-mouthed and... Yeah, but no, it wasn't to be. So, yeah, this made It made $230.9 million.
Okay.
So, that's successful.
Okay.
But you really need 3 times the budget in order to be really successful, and it's not quite there.
Yeah.
It depends on the figure. 70 million, maybe. 100 million, maybe not. $30 million is a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, so I don't really know a lot about how this got made. I do know that it was in production from about 1997, so they'd acquired the rights.
Okay.
Warner Brothers obviously is the producer.
Yeah.
The production company. Over the years, a couple of directors are attached.
Okay.
One of whom you mentioned, the director of The Cage, the Indian guy.
Tarsem Singh.
Tarsem Singh. He was attached at one point.
Yes.
He was attached when Nicolas Cage was also attached. So again, what kind of movie would we have got?
Why would Nicolas Cage walk away from a Tarsem Singh movie?
Apparently, now I have no source for this, so citation absolutely needed. I read this one on TV Tropes, but apparently Tarsem Singh refused to work with Nicolas Cage.
Huh. Okay. I got a lot of questions.
Yeah, I have no answers. It's just a throwaway line I read.
All right.
But he wasn't the first, Tarsem Singh. The first, would you believe, was Paul Hunter, director of Bulletproof Monk.
Whoa. Okay.
4 years before Bulletproof Monk. In 1999, Paul Hunter... And remember, Bulletproof Monk was Paul Hunter's first film.
Yeah.
He was attached... So that, I don't know why they're so adamant on taking a chance on first-time directors. And not just first-time directors, directors of music videos.
Yeah, you know what? It saves money, because you don't have to pay for, like,
Right.
a name director.
Yep.
Just save a few million.
But it's funny that the coincidence here is Paul Hunter and Francis Lawrence both made their names as directors of music videos.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But both Singh and Hunter dropped out, and Francis Lawrence was attached.
Okay.
In the film. The film was made for a PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they
as I
say the
mentioned.
F word once.
Yeah. So, which I think Francis Lawrence is on the record as saying this definitely hobbled the movie.
Okay.
He apparently read all the comics.
Yeah.
Like the character, really excited about the film, but was basically told by the studio PG-13.
Okay.
PG-13 or you don't get the money.
Yeah.
We are not spending $100 million on an R-rated movie. They
Okay.
don't.
Okay.
They don't make the money.
Yeah.
But then it got an R rating anyway.
Did it?
Yeah.
Huh.
Here we go. Francis Lawrence said in an interview, this is from an interview in 2023, that the film was doomed when he agreed to make it PG-13. He described this as selling out.
Huh.
The truth is, it's an R-rated character. The problem was, we followed all the rules of a PG-13 movie and we still got an R.
Yeah.
There was no arguing, presumably with the ratings board. We went back and tried. Why did it get an R? Probably because of the religious stuff.
Oh, weird.
They just slap an R on that.
Huh.
But yeah, no swearing.
Usually you can... Oh, let's see.
But yes, he wanted to make it... Alright, now we're going to cover my trivia, which I have no sources for.
Okay. Oh, you know what? It's... Okay, sorry. Interrupt. Rated R for violence and demonic images.
Ah, there you go. Demonic images must mean stuff... We don't want to upset fundies, right?
I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's it. Because it's not particularly violent.
Yeah.
It's like a Marvel movie, or it's like The Mummy, or it's like... Or it's like...
Yeah.
Or it's like Blade. Or was Blade R-rated? I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, it seems like it's the... They didn't want to piss off the...
Blade is R.
Yeah, okay. They didn't want to piss off the fundamentalists, so there you go. I actually don't have that much trivia left. The only thing I have is that Peter Stormare apparently first auditioned for Balthazar, but the producers took one look at him and said, could you please read for Lucifer?
Right. Right.
There's also, I read a line that Stormare had some input in his costume, and that the original costume is going to be leather pants, bare chest, spiked dog collar.
Huh.
So glad, but I'm not sure how much weight I would put on that, considering how much he looks like the way he does in Hellblazer. So I don't put much stock in that. I don't think they were going to put him in leather chaps and a dog collar.
Dog collar, yeah.
No. And I'm very glad they didn't, because that would have looked really stupid. As well with Tilda Swinton, we do have one other reappearance.
Okay.
An actor called Valerie Azlynn, who plays, according to the credits, Angel.
Okay.
And according to Wikipedia, Angel in bar turning water into wine. So she's in...
That's in Papa Midnight's.
In Papa Midnight's bar.
Oh, yeah, okay.
She breathes on water and turns it into wine.
Yes, okay.
Right. She was also in Surrogates.
Oh, okay.
Playing a character called Bridget.
Huh.
I can find nothing about Bridget online.
I don't remember Bridget.
And I certainly don't remember who the character was. You can't get anything, not even...
Maybe one of the girls that showed up to party with...
That's my guess, because she's quite beautiful.
Yeah, okay.
So I think she's one of the perfect girls that show up to party with.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my guess. But along with Djimon Hounsou, someone else will be back. The actor for Hennessy, or well, he might be back. Pruitt Taylor Vince is his name. Would you believe he's playing Jonathan Kent in Superman 2025?
Whoa, okay. Well, we won't be covering that one because it's already a movie. It's already a universe.
Yeah.
Technically DC. They've already named all the sequels, the spin-offs. There's a Supergirl, etc., etc.
Too bad. Well, he won't be back then, but it's good to know he's still getting work.
Yes, definitely. Actually, Peter Stormare will be back next week. As well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
All right, shall we do our votes?
Yes. Okay. The Hellblazer, or Constantine as a character, great. I think you're the expert in this field because you've read all of them.
I've pretty much read all the Hellblazers ever written. I love, well, especially all the original run.
Yeah.
I haven't read all the new ones. I've only read Spurrier's ones. But I just love Hellblazer so much. I don't know why. It just really scratches that itch for me. I love the character. I love how...
Yeah, especially the Jamie... And I mean, Alan Moore's my favorite writer, but I love Jamie Delano's definition of the character.
I couldn't have put it better. I just love how vulnerable he is.
Yes.
How hopeless he is a lot of the
Yes.
time. How he just kind of has to finagle his way after situation after situation. He never blows his way out with raw power or anything like that.
Yeah.
He's hungover 90% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But of course, I love the American Gothic. I love Stephen Bissette's art and Rick Veitch. Those are some of the best comics ever written.
Yeah.
As well. Just rereading some of them, they are just incredible.
Yeah.
The way, just some of the stuff, like Alan Moore will finish a panel on one page, and then the panel on the next page, the very next panel will be linked to it.
Yes.
Sometimes with the same words, sometimes with an image. It's just the best.
Yeah.
So yay, 100 times, 1,000 times yay for Constantine in all his iterations.
Yeah. And I've not really read a lot of Constantine, but I've loved all that I have read. I've never been disappointed. I've never heard about a run that was a bad run on Constantine, really, but maybe there must be some dips, but
I'm sure. Yeah, well, of course there are.
Yeah.
Of course there are. There's great stories, and then there is like filler stuff.
Yeah, but by the way, I mean 300 issues is monumental in comics. It's very rare that a character actually establishes and has that kind of staying power. Okay, how are you going to rate this movie? There's good bits in it. I love Tilda Swinton in everything and in this. Love the supporting cast. I think Gavin Rossdale, as we said, is good.
Supporting cast is good.
Djimon Hounsou, welcome presence. Shia, weird to see him in a kind of innocent phase of his life and career.
So young at this point, although he had already won an Emmy, I think.
Oh, okay.
But he had way more scenes that were cut.
Okay.
I mean, obviously he appears for 15 minutes and then reappears for 15 minutes in a 2-hour-long movie.
Yeah, and just suddenly is making bullets. Like,
he had apparently lots more scenes.
So I think there's stuff to like in it, but I cannot recommend it.
No, we've been absolutely tearing strips off the plot, and
the plot's a big problem. I still don't understand what happened in this movie. I never understood why. Who are they talking about? What are they talking about? Where are they? I didn't know where the characters were, why they were there, why is this character there, etc., etc. No. Every scene, I was scratching my head and writing crazy notes.
There are some serious problems with the plot where where all sorts of things are unexplained or over-explained.
Yeah.
Yeah, the plot is a big mess, and your film is going to live or die by its plot. Doesn't matter how good the visuals or the performances are. If the film doesn't make sense, that's a big problem. It's dull at times, and here part of the problem is our leading man. This is not we've said it already, this is not the right film for Keanu.
Yeah.
He can't do this sardonic, wisecracking, bitter, sarcastic, dishevelled addict. He can't do it.
Yes.
He does great burnouts. or
a guy who's surprised.
Guy who's dully surprised. Or whose dull surprise passes for...
Or a guy who's really positive about life in the world.
Yes. You know what? This is kind of almost like a proto John Wick.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, if you like John Wick, he's kind of like John Wick. I mean, right? John Wick doesn't do a lot of wisecracking.
No.
But they're kind of jaded.
Yes, he's very jaded. Yes,
jaded gunfighting guy.
You're right. He nailed it by 10 years, 15 years after this. He could do this character.
Yeah, he knew he could.
At this point in his career, he couldn't. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, his reactions, dull surprise is not needed.
In fact, if the rumor sequels are true, I bet you a sequel would be better than this one.
I'm sure already, because it'll get an R rating, because everybody loves R-rated movies now post Deadpool.
Yes.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh, again, so about the sequel, I mean, we hear talks, both Lawrence and Reeves are kicking up gossip about it all the time, about how they are on board. You'd think with Keanu Reeves signing up keen, you'd think it would be made in a doddle. I don't know. But yeah, it's a shame, because it's just like Jonathan Harker confronting Dracula all over again.
Yes.
Oh?
Yes. Yes, that's a good comparison.
I'm sorry.
And this is like 13 years after that. Something like that. 12, 13
Yeah.
years later. Okay, how are you going to rate it as an adaptation?
Well, it's an A.
Yeah.
Because, look, despite what I like about it, the last 15 minutes, not enough to get a yay for film, nor is it enough to get a yay for adaptation, despite liking what they did with the ending very much.
Yeah.
No. This is like another property.
Yeah, it's using magic weapons, having Keanu seem like he's in the Matrix rather than being John Constantine. John Constantine is a very specific, unique character.
Yeah.
Yes. And they haven't put that unique character in this movie.
This is supernatural Matrix. I see it very much in the lineage of these Matrix movies. Yeah. It's not the cliches. Yeah, Constantine doesn't have a gadget guy.
Yes,
he doesn't,
exactly.
He never wins with gadgets.
Yeah.
As I've said over and over, Constantine doesn't cast spells or use gadgets. He wins because he's a little bit smarter, a little bit luckier, and a lot more ruthless than everybody else.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
And it's fun. That's fun. It's not fun. Golden crossbow, shotgun, fire-breathing weapons.
Yeah.
And bugs in boxes and ampules of holy water. James Bonding / John Wicking his way around.
Yeah.
LA Nights. That doesn't constitute a good adaptation in my book.
Yeah.
It's an A for me. Oh, and if you're interested, I have some more quotes from Francis Lawrence, which are perhaps relevant to. They asked him, "Does this movie feel like a graphic novel?" And he said, "No. My approach to this from the beginning was never to shoot it like a comic book movie. Mm-hmm. I think that's been done before. I mean, it was done very, very well with Tim Burton's original Batman. From there, I don't think anybody's really sort of topped that. Everybody sort of built Gotham City again, whether or not it's called Gotham City." And it's funny because I can see some of the lineage of Batman.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw it through Blade to this movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he does speak a little bit about the reaction of the fans. What's the reaction of Hellblazer fans been so far, they ask him. It's different. It's like the general audience, people really like it. Comic book fans in general really like it. And then there's a mix, because there's sort of two kinds of Hellblazer fans. There's the really hardcore fans that won't like it because it's different. Mm-hmm. And I pointed to myself. And then there's the fans that like Hellblazer but aren't hardcore and rabid about it, and they like it. That would be you, and you don't like it either. So sorry, Francis Lawrence.
Yeah.
Nay.
Okay. Please like, rate, review, subscribe. Please leave us a comment through Facebook or Instagram or Blue Sky. Or you can send us an email at the email address in the show notes. All the links are in the show notes. Please join our Patreon at patreon.com/comicbookmovieoblivion. All one word. We do need the money for hosting fees because this episode is going to run over 3 hours.
That's with Stephen's interview, yeah.
Yes, with the interview in there. So with that, costs extra money. The longer the episodes are, the more it costs me to upload them.
Oh my God.
Please. Please. There's no bonuses. We just keep the show going. Okay, so next week, as we talked about in the episode, in the interview with Stephen, we're going to cover Dylan Dog, Dead of Night, from 2010 with Brandon Ruth.
And Peter Stormare.
And I think there's a few other interesting people in the cast too. Maybe not. But we'll talk about all that when we get to it. There is a collection, a huge collection, like 600 pages that Dark Horse put out of Dylan Dog comics. I think you can find an archive, otherwise it's a little bit tricky to find. I think they put them out as 100-page issues as well, because they would have been Italian albums back in the day. Anyway, we'll cover all that stuff. We might talk a little bit about Cemetery Man as well.
If we find the time.
If we can squeeze in 2 movies in 1 week. But we'll make the effort, so just be aware of that as well if you are following along, and I think that covers it.